Good evening to those watching at home, to those in the gallery, to staff and councillors, and welcome to tonight's Ordinary Council meeting on Wednesday the 9th of April 2025. To just welcome those present and also acknowledge that the City of Swan acknowledges the traditional custodians of this region, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. And we pay our respects to elders past, present and their descendants. Just read the disclaimer. The terms and conditions of entry into this meeting are posted on the door as you enter. I'd ask that you please ensure that you have read them prior to attending this meeting and abide by them. Tonight we have nil apologies and we have all councillors in attendance. And leave of absence, I have got 3 requests for leave of absence. I have Councillor Rod Henderson from the 27th of April 2025 until the 1st of June 2025. I'll just hand those to the CEO. I'll do that a little bit further. Sorry, thank you. So I'll ask if there's any declarations of financial and proximity interests and interests affecting impartiality. There are none? Later. If you do have one, just hand that up to the CEO. We move to part 5, which is a public question time. Questions and answers recorded in minutes of meeting may be summarised in accordance with the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996. All questions received for this meeting have been answered and responded to and have been included in this schedule. All questions will be published in the minutes of this meeting. 5.1, answers to questions which were taken on notice, we have nil. 5.2, which is questions relating to reports contained in the agenda. And 5.2.1 is questions of which due notice has been given and they're also nil. Move to 5.2.2, questions without due notice for items in the agenda only. We have Ms Viola Maripodi, who's registered to ask questions. Ms Maripodi, you can ask up to 5 questions.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, councillors and staff. My questions tonight are in relation to Mr Peter Burke's deputation on the sale of lot 503 and 504 Paradise Keys and his response to Councillor Miles' question regarding Emu Swamp Reserve. Question 1. Is the City of Swan still committed to the 2009-2011 Hepburn Avenue offset agreement
Thank you.
With the Department of Environment and Conservation, including a hard road edge and fencing to restrict inappropriate access to the reserve? 2. Is a 14-metre buffer, BAL 29, enough to satisfy bushfire protection requirements within the boundaries of the land being developed so as not to impact on the bushfire and environmental management of neighbouring reserves, properties or conservation covenants?
I'll just ask if we can get a response to that after each question for you. Okay. The first one was to Mr Van der Lind.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think on both these questions, and I've got a copy of the rest of the questions as well, they are very technical questions that we will take on notice and we'll get back to Ms Maripodi afterwards.
Okay. Do you want to finish the 3,
Yes.
4 and 5?
Yes, please. Okay. Will the City of Swan enter into a legal formal agreement between proponents and owners of adjoining land in perpetuity regarding the ongoing management of vegetation on the adjoining property, in brackets, Emu Swamp Reserve, in order to achieve a reduced BAL rating? Next one.
Thank you. Is
lot 504 able to comply under clause 2.2.3 of the AS 3959/2018 without the legal agreement between the City of Swan and the developer of lot 504 to keep Emu Swamp Reserve at a reduced BAL rating? Number 5, as Emu Swamp Reserve is a registered Aboriginal site 3743 and protected under the Aboriginal Heritage Act of 1972, would approval be required under Section 18 for any of the above? Thank you.
Thank you very much for those questions, and Mr. van der Linde will reply to those questions for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Could we have a reply to those questions from Mr van der Linde now? For the benefit of the council?
We would. Mr. van der Linde just explained that it's quite,
Yeah,
it is
but
quite
if he
technical.
has an answer to any of those questions.
Madam Mayor, having listened to all the questions now, I think it's probably appropriate to answer question 3 and 4, because that may relate to council's consideration of an application later tonight. So on the question 3, will the city enter into a legal agreement between the developer or with the developer to facilitate the bell ratings on the site? So on both question 3 and 4, question 3, the answer is no. And is lot 5 or 4 able to comply? Yes.
Thank you very much. And I'll ask, is there anyone in the gallery that is not registered that's wishing to ask a question relating to the items in the agenda? Would you like to come up to the stand and introduce yourself? Okay. Is there anyone else that'd like to ask a question? Yes. Just pop the microphone on and there we go.
First timer. Hi, I'm Rebecca Chamberlain. I live next door to the proposed church at Bennett Street, or proposed place of worship. And I was just wondering, I'm looking at the planning and there's a budget allocated of 2.4 million. So if anybody who's done a kitchen renovation or a bathroom renovation lately will know that 2.4 million is not going to meet the plans that they've designated. So under what conditions can they do a partial build, and how does that get managed through the council? What recourse would we have as residents?
I'll ask Mr. Russell if he could reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think what's being referred to here is that the estimated cost of the development is placed on the planning application forms. It's a well-known fact of procedure with most local governments that you take the application value as it's submitted. In the past, for example, this council has, or a previous council has, interrogated the estimated cost of development by the engagement of a quantity surveyor that ended up verifying, in that instance, the cost of development. So that is what the applicant says is the cost of the build. Obviously, with these planning applications, they're not building plans. So, but they don't have to be building plans. So there's no reason for the city to doubt the cost that the applicant has indicated. And in any event, if the cost at the building permit stage of the build is greater, it has no implications for the planning application whatsoever.
So we could live beside a half entity with none of the fences that are meant to protect us? Is that?
Sorry, can you just ask that again?
So you've got a build that's this big and you can only afford to do this part, and when 3/4 of this build are designed around trying to protect the neighbours, if those components don't get built, what's the recourse for the neighbours?
Thank you. Mr. Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I understand the question a bit better now as it's been expressed. I think what is being put is that what is the potential implication and what is the remedy if the church starts a build and only half completes it? So that's the same situation that if you've got a development that is half completed, then there is, my understanding certainly, that there is recourse for the city to require it to be finished, or ultimately, if it can't be finished and it's half completed, for it to be demolished. And there's substantial case law in Western Australia around that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Did you have a further question?
Yeah, I did, sorry. Has this taken into consideration the impacts to sewerage? Because we know that they're going to have to connect into the actual main sewage plant, and I know when we looked at it for our property, it's difficult, and they're going to have to go for much larger services than what we would. Has that been considered as part of the application? Because that would involve cutting into the road that feeds into that roundabout to cross the street.
Mr. Russell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the council will note in the report, there is a condition requiring the connection to reticulated sewer. It is the obligation on the church and those parties that is engaged to assist them in developing their church to understand that there is a requirement for them to connect to reticulated sewer, and that may come at a cost. That is for them to consider in their proposal. It is not for the local government to second guess or gainsay their ability to deliver financially the project that they've advanced.
Sorry, it wasn't financially, it was the fact that
Okay.
the road would be gone.
Did you have a fifth question?
Yes. The last one I had was around hours of operation and what recourse there is, because there's a lot of confusion around the hours of operation, and the answers they gave at the meeting last week added to that confusion in terms of sewing groups and classes. And living there right now, I know that those vehicles aren't leaving till 2 o'clock in the morning at the moment, and they're using drums, which was explicitly stated as not happening.
So you're asking for clarification?
What is
of
the
times?
recourse that we would have if this makes it through? Because after speaking to the ranger, he said unless it's happening between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m, there's not much they can do.
Mr. Russell?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there's a couple of things. I think councillors will be aware of an email circulated by the applicant on behalf of the Ethiopian Church, Karina Johnson, that provided some clarification and correction to the hours of operation of the church, further to what was put by the church congregationalists last week. So I'm assuming you're all aware of that. In relation to that doesn't change, and that just reinforces the accuracy of the conditions and what the report says is in terms of the hours of operation of the church. If the proponents breach the hours of operation, well, that's assuming that in the first instance that the JDAP ultimately conceivably approve this application with the conditions as has been indicated in the RA. If that all transpires and the church operates in a manner other than in accordance with the conditions, then they are liable for a breach and they're liable to enforcement action by the city. So if the adjoining residents are concerned as they could, reasonably be expected to be on face value that the facility might not operate in the manner in which they've applied for, if that is governed by conditions and there is a breach, then we can take them into account for compliance or non-compliance with those conditions. So that is the recourse, Madam Mayor. If this was to be approved, and we've got to say at this point if, and subsequently if it was approved by the JDAP with the conditions that has been recommended by staff.
Thank you very much, Mr. Russell, and I think that was the
Thank
5
you.
questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just ask again if there's anyone in the gallery that is not registered who wishes to speak tonight on items relating to the agenda. No? Thank you. 5.3, other questions to items not contained in the agenda. 5.3.1, which is questions of which due notice has been given, and we have received questions from Ms Mary Despa, Mr Robert Bradbury from Swan Communities Environmental Alliance, and Ms Jan Zek, and they've all been answered and they'll also form part of the minutes. Move to 5.3.2, which is questions without due notice. We have Ms Jan Zek registered to ask questions, and Ms Zek, if you'd like to come up to the podium.
Thank you.
And you have
My first question is, in light of the flooding which occurred in Henley Brook last winter, has the local water management strategy been amended to avoid flooding this year?
very good question. Mr Coaten,
I'll take that on notice.
thank you. Second question.
Why were temporary flood storage areas not provided as per the Brooklands Local Water Management Strategy 6.2.8 for any stages of the development to date?
Also Mr Coaten,
I'll take that on notice too, Madam Mayor.
thank you.
Will temporary flood storage areas be constructed to avoid the same situation occurring this year?
If you
I'll
can.
take that on notice.
Thank you. The fourth question.
Considering that State Planning Policy 2.9 requires water resources which include natural and modified features such as creeks to be buffered and drainage treatment to be excluded, Why was this allowed to be ignored on the pretext that the creek was degraded and replaced with a foreshore reserve despite it discharging directly into the Swan River, which is already suffering environmental impacts from untreated effluent?
Also, Mr.
I'll
Gordon.
take that one on notice.
Thank you. And a fifth question?
I'm sure you'll do exactly the same with this one. Why is drainage, apparently without prior treatment, being discharged not just into the foreshore reserve, the de facto buffer, but directly into St Leonard's Creek in contravention of State Planning Policy 2.9 Water Resources, which states in Schedule 2, guidance for the determination of appropriate buffering of waterways and estuaries. In a buffer area, there is a presumption against supporting any activity likely to degrade its protective function, including activities that are likely to require, cause or result in the following: clearing, filling, mining, drainage into and out of, effluent discharge into, pollution of, or environmental harm, which in effect precludes effluent from being discharged directly into the creek.
That was the question, Mr. Coyton.
Yes, I will take that one on notice as well, and if we could get a copy of those questions in writing, it would be appreciated.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms.
Thank
Eck.
you.
Now I'll ask, is there anyone in the gallery that is not registered wishing to ask a question relating to items not in the agenda? It's just for public questions at the moment. Thank you. If you'd just like to introduce yourself, and you have 5 questions.
Gavin Troy, resident of the Vines. I have questions regarding the eligibility of councillors, and I did provide a paper on the background and the complex path I had in trying to resolve it myself. So it leads me to 5 questions. I therefore ask the questions as follows. I've attempted to have a question on residential address or property ownership applying to that alleged ineligible council's eligibility answered in 2 quarters. 1, the City of Swan, where I was advised that the council staff could not provide the answer, and 2, by the Department of Local Government, who advised me to ask the relevant local government authority. Madam Mayor, can I be assured that all elected councillors are eligible to hold such a position at this time, whereby the Local Government Act essential requirements for the councillors to be 18 years of age, an Australian citizen or a British subject prior to the 26th of January 1984, an elector of the local government district, and bearing in mind that has 2 elements, residential qualification and property ownership.
That's the first question.
Can I be assured they are satisfied? That is the first question.
Can I ask the CEO to respond, please?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Troy. In terms of the criteria which you've specified, they are the ones set out in the Act, and that is a requirement for a councillor to be entitled. However, if I could come to looking around the table and everyone's over 18, I'm suspecting that's true. The questions on a person's eligibility status based on their enrolment is a matter that can only be resolved or satisfied through the Electoral Commissioner.
Thank you. I think you probably already answered some of my subsequent questions, but I think the public are very interested, those who are aware of this circumstance. Question 2. In terms of local government criteria for council qualification, is the residential requirement for a local government council fully and or adequately satisfied the proof of electoral enrolment?
Thank you, Mr. CEO.
Thank you. There is an onus on each person who is on the electoral roll to be correctly enrolled on the roll, and that is based on their residential address. As to the authenticity of that, it's only a question that can be resolved by the Electoral Commissioner. The local government itself the CEO has no power to go behind the person's claim status for enrolment.
Okay.
Thank you. Question 3. How does the local government authority ensure that the electoral enrolment requirement for permanent or normal residency is satisfied, or is this the determination left solely to the responsibility of the State Electoral Department? I think you've answered that question.
We'll give the CEO the opportunity to respond.
Thank you. Where there is a concern held either by a resident or by the local government itself, it can ask the West Australian Electoral Commissioner or the Australian Electoral Commissioner to initiate a review of that person's electoral enrolment entitlement. As I mentioned, this is an option for a private citizen who can initiate what's known as a personal objection to a person's claimed electoral status.
Thank you. Question 4. What action is undertaken by the City of Swan if a concern is raised on such a possible discrepancy?
In effect, the city would first raise those concerns with the individual council member in order to ascertain what their position was. If that wasn't satisfactorily resolved, the city would refer the matter to the West Australian Electoral Commissioner for review.
Thank you. And whilst I made the error of a 6th question, I'll combine it with the 5th. Has any member of council staff had such an allegation put to them over the past 6 months? And what action was taken by council administration?
Thank you, Mr. CEO.
Thank you. Yes, staff have had that put to them, and the matter has been passed on to the West Australian Electoral Commissioner for formal review.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chua. And now we move to part 6, which is public statement time, and you have 2 minutes. Oh, sorry, you have one more. My apologies. I'll just ask again if there's anyone in the gallery that's not registered wishing to speak in relation to an item not on the agenda. If you would like to come up and
Just 2 questions, thank you.
Yeah, if you just introduce yourself and where you're from.
Good evening, I'm Rob Bradbury, I'm a resident of The Vines. These 2 questions are follow-up questions from the answers provided by Mr van der Linde of questions on notice. Given that there was a motion some 3 years ago to deliver strategic and proposed plantings of food sources for the Carnaby's cockatoos across the city of Swan, can Mr van der Linde assure us that the action plan due in May and the biodiversity action plan due in May and the cockatoo conservation action plan in June contains suitable locations and plans for future planting?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The action plan includes criteria that will be used to identify sites that is suitable to be planted.
Did you have a second question?
Yes, I do, thank you. Given that there appears to be no information available on where the planting will be based on that answer, and given that there is a well-known crisis with the cockatoos, the City of Swan staff have been doing a good job over recent years with the planting of native plants in parks and reserves. There is normally a surplus of plants at the end of each season. Should there be a surplus this season, can we please ensure that a plan is developed to make best use of these plants this season, given the crisis?
Mr van der Linde.
Madam Mayor, if you look at the answer to question 3 previously asked and answered in the schedule, the answer that we provided is planting plans and locations for this winter have generally been determined. And as a lead time is required for purchasing plants and arranging resources for planting. So as such, planting specifically related to that recommendations will only happen in the next season because we still have to plan for it for the next season. So the plantings for this planting season has already been determined.
I think Mr van der Linde may not have understood the second question. I said that over the last few years there has always been a surplus of plants, and I'm looking for some agility from the council to recognise the response.
Mr Coaten.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure that I understand your comment about the surplus of plants. The city orders plants, and we've got a range of programs where we distribute them. I'm not sure if you're referring to the trees to residents.
No. The City of Swan staff do a great job of revegetating, and in the area I live in, they've actually revegetated significant areas with great success. There has always been a surplus of several hundred plants because it's very hard to obviously precisely allocate the number of plants to a given area. All I'm asking is, if this surplus eventuates, it has done for the last couple of years, can we please make best use of it and attribute those plants to appropriate locations?
Mr Coaten.
Yes, it might be perhaps best if I speak to Mr Bradbury outside of this to clarify exactly what he's talking about. But when we do have Yeah, we don't throw plants away. I think if that's what you're implying, we do plant the ones that we purchase. But
I'm happy to take that offline, have a separate meeting. All I'm saying is tactical planting to recognise the current crisis, but I'll stop there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I'll just get you to pop that microphone off there. Thank you. Then we move to public statement time. We have 2 minutes for public statements, and registration for public statement time at council meetings was required by 10 a.m. this morning, Wednesday the 9th of April 2025. Public statements are for general matters of the city and not for items on the agenda. And we have Mr. Greg Van Romey. Hopefully I've pronounced that right. Is it Romey or Romey?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Greg Van Rompuy. I reside at 2 Garran Loop in Henley Brook. On behalf of the residents of Morgan Fields, I would like to bring to the Council's attention the impacts of the decision to close Massara Avenue. There are only 2 ways to enter Morgan Fields, either via Lucino Boulevard or via Asturian, then Haflinger. We used to have 3 entry points. Originally, most of the traffic coming into Morgan Fields did so from Henley Brook Avenue and then into Massara Ave, then turn left or right into Sandown to get home, or carry on to Asturian and then right into Haflinger. This system went like this for 20 years or so. The system was in place for 20 years and worked very well to stream residents north and south. And during that time, there were no accidents or safety concerns. You should have got some handouts. See page 1 of your handout. Thank you, Rod. With Massara being closed, this has now forced all of the traffic into Asturian, then Haflinger, which has now become a problem due to the large volume and to the fact that Asturian has a strong left-hand bend in it where it meets Haflinger, and Haflinger has a right-hand bend in it where it meets Asturian. To compound this, there's been a new road built, namely Lesmurdy Place, forming yet another intersection that is only 10 metres away from the Asturian-Haflinger intersection. This has now become the most dangerous intersection in Henley Brook. There has been 3 accidents, albeit minor, in 1 year, but I'm sure a big accident is coming. Please refer to page 2. I would like to point out that the change in traffic flow has in no way benefited or improved safety for the residents of Morgan Fields. In fact, it has done the opposite. It has forced many of the residents to go down into Asturian Drive and end up in the heart of the new Islamic College in Asturian Drive, competing with school buses, parent pickups, parent drop-offs and pedestrians.
Thank you, Mr. Romay. Did you have much more?
About 3 lines.
Yep.
The decision to close Massara is a bad one. We have asked the engineering department as to 1, what was the reason for the closure, and 2, where is the benefit? We have received no response on both questions. We respectfully ask that Massara should be reopened and hope that the council sees common sense in this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Romay. And I'll also ask with Ms. Jan Zek relating to tree removal at Henley Brook.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tree canopy in Brooklands, Henley Brook, is predicted to plunge by 20% with urbanisation. This equates to a loss of around 30,000 trees, about 64% estimated to be black cockatoo habitat. Hard to believe when the proponent described the land as horse adjustment and grazing land with scattered trees. Former rural land being cleared for urbanisation is consistently referred to as degraded, inferring it is worthless. This is far from the truth. If horse adjustment and grazing land with scattered trees means 30,000 mature, established trees with over 19,000 of them black cockatoo habitat. Significant flooding in Brooklands persisted for 5 months last year. This should not have happened. The whole point of preparing a local water management strategy is to avoid this sort of situation. Preparation of a local water management strategy was to ensure that drainage management was undertaken on site to control contaminants and excessive discharge before entering waterways that flow into the Swan River. Despite this, it now appears that drainage has been installed to channel discharge with minimum treatment straight into St Leonard's Creek. This cavalier attitude to development will have massive detrimental impacts on the environment, rural land that abuts it, current and future residents, and ultimately the City of Swan along with its ratepayers, who will be left to pick up the tab. The term degraded has allowed developers to ignore legislative requirements to properly investigate sites and consider how development will impact on surrounding areas and the environment. It should not result in decision makers accepting inadequate reports where outcomes have such dire consequences. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Zach. I'll just get you to pop that microphone off there. Thank you very much. And I'll just check. Now we move on to part 7, which is petitions, and we have had no petitions presented that need tabling at this meeting tonight. Part 8, deputations. All deputations for items on the agenda were heard at the agenda forum held on the 2nd of April 2025. And that brings me to a great announcement tonight. It's been a really big month of award wins for the City of Swan and for the Swan Valley. But also tonight I'm really proud to share with everyone that the Swan Valley Visitor Centre awarded gold in the Visitor Information Services category at the 2024 Qantas Australian Tourism Award. So I think it's worth a massive congratulations to all the staff at the Swan Valley Tourism Centre. They are amazing. So I hope you all get in there and get to go and have a chat to them and see the quality of the service that they provide to us. And, you know, this was a massive win for the City of Swan and for all of our employees, because we had the semi-finals in Perth, which we won. And like I said, we struck gold and also took out this category, which is for 500 tourism centres across Australia. So that is a fantastic win, as I just said. I'm just going to hand that one back to the CEO. We also struck gold and silver in the digital, which was travel category, at the Australian Design Awards in 2025 for the Swan Valley website. And the gold was achieved at the National Awards and the silver at the International Awards. The Swan Valley website project was a collaboration between our digital and tourism teams, and that was to deliver a website that presents the Swan Valley as a premier tourist destination. And I think it stands alone, and it's a amazing win for the City of Swan. They have won it previously and been inducted into the Hall of Fame, and we hope that they continue their winning streak for the next couple of years. So, you know, that's the whole of Australia. So we're pretty chuffed with that. So I'd also like to mention on Monday, the 21st of April 2025, City will celebrate National Sikh Day and acknowledging our Sikh community's heritage and values of unity and equality. And that will be with an event at the Guilford Town Hall from 11 a.m. And I invite everyone to come and join this celebration. Move to part 10, which is leave of absence. Now, I did have a few here. We had Councillor Bowman from the 22nd of April 2025 to the 24th of April 2025 inclusive. Over there. Councillor Howlett from the 22nd of April to the 24th of April inclusive. And Councillor Rod Henderson from the 27th of April 2025 to the 1st of June 2025 inclusive. Are there any other council members wishing to submit an application for leave? No? If there is, can you please hand that up to the CEO? Oh, I haven't moved yet. And I'll ask, is there a mover? Thank you, Councillor Zanino, and a seconder? Or Deputy Mayor? Is there anyone against? No, it's carried. Move to part 11, which is confirmation of minutes. 11.1, confirmation of minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 12th of March 2025. May I please have a mover? Councillor Bowman and a seconder? Councillor Jones, thank you very much. Is anyone against? No, it's carried. And move to part 12. Business left over from the previous meeting, there was none. So now we move to part 13. This is the adoption of those recommendations contained in items not withdrawn. So for the benefit of the community members observing the meeting, that means that the agenda items where council supports the officer recommendation are not debated separately. One vote is taken on all of the items, and the officer recommendation is therefore the decision of council. The following items have not been withdrawn for individual consideration, and they will be dealt with via the en bloc vote. And therefore, the officer's recommendation will be the decision of council. And those items are 14.5.1, Financial Management Report for the period ending 28th of February 2025, 14.5.2, which is the list of accounts paid February 2025, and 16.1, extension of lease on 15 Keene Street, Midland. May I ask for a mover? Thank you. Councillor Miles. And a seconder? Councillor Henderson, thank you. Is anyone against? It's carried. So for those in the gallery, move to part 14. Reports withdrawn for debate or absolute majority vote required. The following reports have been withdrawn for debate or have an absolute majority vote in accordance with Meeting Procedures Local Law 2023, and they will be dealt with by council individually. And we have item 14.3.1, which is Responsible Authority Report, Proposed Place of Worship, Lot 9, Number 5, Bennett Street, Caversham, DA 438-24, which is on page 7. Councillor Zanino, your proposed motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, councillors. I rise to move that the council resolve to 1, advise the Metro Outer Development Assessment Panel that council does not support the application for a proposed place of worship at Lot 9, Number 5, Bennett Street, Caversham, for the following reasons. 1, the estimated volume of traffic will have an adverse impact on the existing road network. 2, the proposed operations will have an adverse impact on the rural amenity of the immediate surrounding locality. And 3, the proposed place of worship is within 300 metres of an existing operating poultry farm and may be adversely impacted by emissions from that poultry farm, particularly odour, dust, noise, flies and rodents. Given poultry farms are supposed to have a mandatory 500 metre buffer zone around them. Reason for changing the recommendation is the development fails to comply with the poultry farm buffer policy. Additionally, if approved, this development will adversely impact traffic in the locality, especially when the Lloyd Street extension is complete.
Thank you, Councillor Zanino. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Howlett? Is there anyone against? Do you wish to debate it? Thank you, Councillor McCulloch. Councillor Zanino.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As much as I'd like to support this application, this is the wrong location for this use. Like it or not, if approved, the development will have a negative impact on local residents with potential traffic and safety concerns. Everything starts off small, but inevitably small things grow. The estimated volumes of traffic will have an adverse impact on the existing road network. This will only become much worse when the Lord Street extension is finalised or finished. Also, the proposed operations will have an adverse impact on the rural amenity of the immediate surrounding locality. Councillors, what concerns me the most is the proximity of the development to the existing poultry farm. It states on page 16 of the report, or page 26 in the agenda, it is separated from the poultry farm by a mere distance of 103 metres. My understanding is that the poultry farms are classified as an offensive industry and should have a mandatory 500 metre buffer. Poultry farms can and do generate problems such as dust, noise, odour, plus attract flies and rodents. I'm sure the planners can recall the problems we had with the poultry farm in Cheltenham Street a number of years ago. Councillors, this alone is, in my opinion, enough to refuse this application. Councillors, as I stated, poultry farming is covered by a number of state and Commonwealth laws and regulations. And I am sure that this does not comply and therefore should be refused. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zanino. Councillor Howlett as the seconder.
Thank you. I have nothing further to add. Councillor Zanino covered those points very well. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask, does anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillor McCulloch.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, our officer's report recommends approval. All the reasons citing refusal of this DA or RA have been discussed clearly and comprehensively. We've seen a comprehensive report, the agenda forum with clear questions and responses. We've seen an email this afternoon checking on some of those and reiterating some of those responses. I've spoken with the proponents, with residents who oppose the application, and I visited the site, and I have spent considerable time looking at various aspects of the proposal. And I appreciate all the feedback that has greatly assisted me in making my decision to support this RA. You know, our city is beautifully inclusive. It is an incredible mosaic of ethnicity. Italian clubs, Polish clubs, temples, churches, mosques, and more. All places that provide a place for a particular group of people to meet, to feel safe, and to enjoy meeting in a way that works for them and that is part of their culture. Councillors, this is a discretionary use, but again, the officer's recommendation to approve, can I please remind you that it makes sense, that it is completely capable of approval. The questions, the comments and the feedback pertaining to traffic, parking, noise, rural amenity, they've all been answered. I spent 40 minutes on the block. I stood in the middle of the block. I walked the fence lines. I walked the front and the back. And it does make sense. And I can see aspects of the for and against. But in addition, the city's own officer's report is very clear that the traffic impacts are minor and they don't meet the threshold. And we know that the city has invested significantly already in the existing road network. And we also know that there have not been complaints from the community regarding the operation of the poultry farm, nor are there any compliance matters. And guess what? The poultry farm is no longer operational at this stage. Yes, there were some requested modifications to the bushfire plan. All other agencies had not one issue. The elevations in the plan are fine, and if you visit the site, you will absolutely see the perspectives of how this comes together. I would like to think that we can welcome our immigrants from across the globe, cognizant of the challenges that they have bravely faced in their own countries. With that in mind, we then extend a hand of grace and provide places for them to join together as a community that in turn strengthens our wider communities in the city of Swan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll ask if anyone would like to speak for the motion. I'll ask if anyone would like to speak for the motion. Does anyone like to speak against the motion? Just I'll get you to turn that microphone off, please. Thanks, Councillor McCulloch. Councillors, I'll ask, would anyone like to speak for the motion? Anyone like to speak against the motion? No? I'll ask for your right of reply.
Madam Mayor, I think that it should just be put to a vote.
Thank you, Councillor Zanino. Those in favour? So we had Councillor Catalano, Councillor Dawn, Councillor Oringo, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Knight, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Howlett, and those against. Councillor Singh, Councillor Jones, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Miles, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Podovnik, Deputy Mayor Johnson, and myself. Did it count?
Excuse me, Mayor, is it too late to foreshadow the officer's recommendation?
It is. Okay.
Through the chair, yes, the motion is now cast. You has been lost. No one foreshadowed the officer's recommendation. So the motion was. I got what you carried.
Yeah.
Did you get 8-7?
8-7.
7 for and 8 against.
Okay.
7 votes for and 8 against. So the motion was lost, and therefore the officer's recommendation wasn't passed. So council doesn't have a decision on this item. So the matter would need to then move back to a report will go to the JDAP saying the council did not make a decision on this item. Simply then pick up what the officers have got in that. That's got it. The only way you can deal with this is if you wanted to do an in-meeting revocation of the motion, or to come back to the same motion again and flag it. But I wouldn't support that. But
Yes, I'd like to move in meeting revocation. We need 5 hands for this.
Is that possible?
so the decision's been made. You've got a decision which didn't support it. That is the decision. It's not a non-decision. I think you could revoke what you've just made and have the same decision made again. Sorry, through the chair, there's just some procedural pieces that are going on now. So if you come back to, because council's decision was not to have a decision, effectively what it is, that's not to have a decision. The only way you can deal with it, in my view, would be revoking or change your decision at the same meeting, and you want to clearly identify the decision to be revoked or changed. Clearly stating the reason for it to be revoked or changed. You could, for instance, move. The reason we need to revoke it is council didn't make a formal decision on the item, therefore we need to revoke the last one. But that's why I say look carefully when your debate goes, because if you get to the end and you haven't got a decision, that's still what goes to the JDAP.
Question. Previously, in my 10 years on this council, we have not needed to foreshadow an officer's recommendation. It's my view that the simple and obvious thing to do right now, because you can't revoke a non-decision, is to simply proceed to the officer's recommendation. That's what we've always done for all my years on council. So I'd like to move the officer's recommendation.
Through you, Mr. CEO.
Again, through the chair, if you can show me where the provision says that you move to it, but having made a decision, which is your vote, what your meeting procedures require you to move to the next item. That's my understanding of them. If I'm wrong, happy for the governance manager to correct it. So that's why I'm saying to you, the only way I see at this point in time is to revoke a decision in order to do it. But no one, and you come back to the clear reference of the meeting procedures where it talks about foreshadowed motions, and there was no one who foreshadowed the motion.
Okay. Okay. Councillor Henderson, question?
Madam Mayor, the fact of the matter is it's been dealt with, and so a normal report would go from staff to the JDAP. That will be done as a matter of course, so there's no need to proceed any further in my view.
Thank you. Mr. CEO, you've outlined the process.
So again, to the chair, unless someone moves a revocation, and that's fine, we simply take council's non-decision and that goes to the JDAP as the decision, where the officer's report sits there still as the officer's recommendation.
Okay.
Which is effectively...
Question? Let's wait. Question? Just pop it on. Someone else got that.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So just so that I'm clear, if the officer's recommendation goes to the JDAP, will they consider it as if it was a decision of council? They won't, will they? And does it lose its impact?
Again, through the chair, it is still the officer's recommendation. The officer's recommendation would always go up. But what you've got now is a council resolution that was voted down, which was to say no. So simply they will have no decision from council, or they'll have the officer's report. Now, in terms of someone foreshadowing the officer's report, you've effectively got that position. but it doesn't have council's decision on it.
Oh, Councillor Miles, did you have a question?
I was just going to ask if the CEO could clarify 8.27 and if I just read that wrong, if that's relevant to right now.
Again, through the chair, that is correct where it's not, when no alternate is foreshadowed, but that foreshadowing occurs during the debate. The presiding member may invite a member to move the officer's recommendation, but that's normally during debate.
But it says it hasn't been foreshadowed though, which is what happened.
Again, the foreshadowing would occur to debate. Now, it's open to the chair, because this is her meeting. She can rule on that, and she could simply say, I rule that in accordance with 8.27, I'm going to allow for a foreshadowed motion if she wishes, and then it could be ruled, that could be voted upon. But the normal process is you foreshadow during the debate, so it's clear that's what we're coming to.
Okay. Okay. Councillors, hopefully you've all spoken to each other and you know who's going to foreshadow. We move from this experience and learning to hopefully everyone's spoken to each other and we know who's going to foreshadow the officer's recommendation. We move to 14.3.2, which is Responsible Authority Report for the proposed new shop building Market Fresh IGA and the modifications to the Barker's Store and Warehouse Building Lot 450, number 124, Swan Street, Guilford, DA 900-24, which is on page 39. And we propose motion by Deputy Mayor Johnson. If you'd like to read out your motion, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. My motion is that Council resolve to not endorse the Responsible Authority Report and instead recommend that the Metro Outer DAP refuse the application for the following reasons. A, the adverse impact of the IGA customers and suppliers' vehicle traffic on traffic flows around the Meadow Street, Swan Street roundabout to the detriment of vehicles travelling north and south along Meadow Street and West Swan Road. B, a parking provision shortfall of 33 bays in an area of Guilford already short of parking, refer to the Guilford Access and Parking Strategy. C, the building does not comply with the Guilford Mandoon Heritage Area Local Planning Policy, which is part of the local LPS 17 planning scheme. In the policy at section 8.4.3 materials and colours, it says on page 31, 8.4.3.3 walls, brickwork. Brickwork is red clay brick of a non-uniform firing that closely matches historical brickwork and traditional bond patterns found on contributory places within the same street. However, the applicant is proposing Boral blend Bargo bricks. I think that should be a closed quotation mark there instead of a bracket. That the report on page 64 of the agenda report says are more brown than red. And the reasons for the motion are, one, the reasons for changing the officer's recommendation are given in the motion above. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Howlett. I'll ask, is anyone against? Do you wish to debate it? Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
I should just begin by saying I did receive a petition late yesterday with 28 signatures on it, but all councillors have received that. Councillors, this is a development application for an IGA in Guilford. Guilford is a town recognised for planning purposes by the state government as a heritage town, and we have a special planning scheme for Guilford Town, the Guilford Mandoon Heritage Area Planning Policy. Do people in Guilford want an IGA in Guilford? Very obvious question. Well, the answer is yes, we do, but not in this location. So why is this particular location a problem? There are three reasons: traffic, parking, and heritage. Traffic. This development is at the junction of Meadow Street and Swan Street. Meadow Street is really another name for West Swan Road, which has bumper-to-bumper north-south traffic during rush hour. Swan Street carries a lot of traffic to and from Midland, originating from the Great Eastern Highway and Terrace Road. This development will increase the number of vehicles turning right across the bumper-to-bumper traffic on Meadow Street, further slowing it down. We can't make the road wider, and we can't add a pocket turn as the road has heritage buildings on either side of us. It is extremely constrained. It says in the agenda report on page 75 that it is irrefutable that the performance of the roundabout will become increasingly worse. And this is because vehicles leaving the IGA wanting to continue along West Swan Road will need to turn left, then go around the Swan Street and Terrace Road roundabout, and then again around the IGA roundabout. Members of the community also contend that the traffic report undercounts the traffic as it was done during a school holiday. Third point, parking. The City of Swan parking standards require 61 bays, but only 28 are provided in the application. That's a shortfall of 33 car parking bays. Guilford already has a shortage of parking, and this scale of shortfall will impact other businesses and the local residential community. Heritage. Meadow Street is the most intact heritage street in the most intact heritage town in the metropolitan area. It contains the old warehouse on the site, the old jail, the courthouse, the old post office, the Guilford Town Hall, the Stirling Arms, the Guilford Fire Station, the Garrick Theatre, and around 14 houses, one of which is the second oldest house in Australia, but it is probably actually the oldest house in Australia. Meadow Street's intact heritage streetscape should be preserved unchanged for future generation. This is our best street, councillors. There are other locations in Guilford in which an IGA would be most welcome. I've read the submissions, and the submissions from Guilford nearly all support an IGA, but those that oppose the development recognise the importance of their heritage streetscape and would like their council to support the preservation of their town of Guilford with its special heritage characteristics. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I ask Councillor Howlett as the seconder.
Thank you. Councillors, I'm just simply not convinced that placing an IGA on this site will not negatively impact on the traffic flow. As much as for some, this IGA might facilitate a convenience to pop down for milk and bread, the inconvenience that this may cause for others, particularly travelling north and south along Meadow Street and West Swan Road, simply doesn't justify it. Facilitating a commercial development on a car park in Guilford, where Guilford already has an existing and very real parking shortfall, is not good development. Not only is this development proposed to be on a car park, the application itself has a parking shortfall of 33 bays. This is not good planning. Please support Councillor Deputy Mayor Johnson's motion to refuse.
Thank you, Councillor Howlett. I'll ask, is anyone against? Councillor Henderson.
Briefly, Madam Mayor. First things first, people say that they want an IGA. Well, it's just been said that there are other locations. Well, if there are other locations and this one is so bad, why wouldn't someone go look elsewhere? The bottom line is they've made a commercial decision that this site is suitable. And that's really the key here. It's a commercial decision. Now, the other thing is there's not enough car parking bays. Well, reality is quite simple. If I can't find somewhere to park my car when I go shopping, guess what? I go to another shopping centre. And that's really the key, isn't it? So they've obviously worked out their numbers, what they need, and what they expect from their traffic flow. And if I'm going to pop down for some milk and bread, I'll probably do it at 10 o'clock, something like that, or after work when all the traffic's gone. So again, these are commercial impact matters that if people can't readily access it, they won't go. So I see no reason why we can't see some good use put to this land and get what the people want for the area. Thank you.
Councillors, I'd like to speak for the motion. Councillor McCulloch.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, I'm not opposed to an IGA, and I'm not opposed to an IGA on this site. I think we do have traffic flow issues through Guilford. I don't believe we have significant parking shortfall, maybe on this site at this stage, but my focus is on the heritage aspect, and there is something that we are missing significantly here. And if I may be so bold as to possibly at the end of my 3 minutes request for a little bit more time, because I believe it's a little bit of a learning curve for me, myself as well. The Guilford Heritage Precinct Guidelines, in my opinion, allow for a series of boxes to be ticked in isolation. They don't necessarily contribute to rigorous heritage protection outcomes. This then allows important heritage aspects and considerations to slip through the gaps that may not be conducive or respectful to heritage design, but incredulously still be capable of approval. I do respectfully question some of these guidelines and those boxes that can be ticked, and I'm interested as to how in future years they can be more rigorous and contribute to solid heritage outcomes. The strength of Guilford is in the cohesive joining of hands, so to speak, of all the remaining heritage buildings. Visual impact is so important. We need to ensure the remaining buildings are relatable and they are connected to continue to tell Guilford's story. This new relation that is going to sit between Barker's Cottage and the old courthouse needs to be right. It's a significant relationship, and one that I've heard it said by a number of heritage experts that there's not one heritage mistake that hasn't been regretted a generation later. This is a high-profile corner position, and this new relation sits out to so block Barker's Cottage from a street view. We need to look at the architecture. There is the arches, the canopies and the awnings. A little bit surprising in a way, because what we need here for this relation is simple geometric lines, unadulterated and simple. Qualities well suited to Guilford's infill. The Barker's store and the old courthouse are only 60 metres apart, and they've been buddies for years, and old age neighbours with a clear visual connection ever since the old Swan Street buildings were demolished many years ago. When the site had all of its original buildings, the entire collection would have been an important heritage precinct. And I may ask, Mayor, if I could have a little more time. Anyone?
How much longer do you need?
Maybe a minute.
Anyone against? No? Okay.
When the site had all of its original buildings, the entire collection would have been an important precinct. Now the two survivors speak to each other from across the road, and they do it well, but not when this new addition is built. It will obscure the eastern part of Barker's Mill. For 200 years, it has sat there in a reasonably commanding position, representing the area. People may say it's just one little building. What are you worried about? Well, there's such thing in heritage areas across the world as heritage destruction by stealth. The angled projecting portion of the new IGA will block out half the Barker's store when viewed from outside the old courthouse. And looking north down Meadow Street, it will be similarly blocked. I know that you've seen the plans, and from those views, it might make sense, but I tell you, you go down and you look and you stand on those street corners and you move up and down, and the perspective of the eye in a three-dimensional view takes on a whole new meaning as to what we're talking about. A more sensitive development would not be set any further west than the east wall of the Barker's store, and we need to look at that carefully.
Thank you very much. That was your extra minute. Well, yep. Would anyone like to extend the time? Yes? By how long? How long would you like?
2 or 3 minutes.
2 or 3 is a bit of a hike. Can we do it in 2?
2, thank you, Mayor.
Just to be fair, is anyone against? Do you wish to debate it? Thank you. Oh, good. Councillor McCulloch.
The open nature of the site corner has become well known and loved by locals. Now, I have looked at and I have spoken to a significant heritage architect. He has been a successful architect in the Fremantle area for over 45 years. He did a layout and looked at a redesign that entailed a basement parking, which enabled the parking issue to be solved, the traffic flow, and the retention of these views that we will not get back. As I said before, the new is suffocating the old. The busy detailing, the inappropriate design features, the little awnings, and what I believe and others to be a poor design resolution. So, with that, and I was going to print this out for you, might have a ramp down off Swan Street with a basement car park. Barker's store retains its views. The new park is bigger. The building is much simpler, and it's a far better resolution for respect to heritage with the store and the old courthouse. Now, I do have a little bit more time and I'm going to talk really fast, but specifically DG 8.1.3, the corner lot situations or instances where contributory places are visible to the public realm, blah, blah, blah. This is where a major argument exists. This corner lot, the clear visual retention of the south elevation is not being retained. DG 8.1.4, places which have significant visibility from the public realm, in particular sites where topography provides a natural prominence to the place. I could go on, but this clause accentuates and strengthens the point made that we are ignoring the adverse impact on the aesthetic characteristics of the place and its contribution to the picturesque character of the heritage area. Councillors, please consider this. Please think about what we need into the future and what Guildford's heritage is all about.
Thank you, Councillor McCulloch. I'll ask anyone like to speak against the motion. For the motion. For the motion. Was against. Against, we're up to. Anyone like to speak against the motion? Right. If not, I'd like to speak as well, so I'll hand the chair over to the Deputy Mayor. I don't normally enter into too much debate. I'd just like to speak against the motion. Thank you, Councillor McCulloch, for your points and for the references to heritage, and I won't go over too much with you. Councillors, if the motion was to fail, I do have an alternative motion that I will debate. Just one moment.
Like a proximity, because you live there, is that not a...
No, thank you. If I can just continue. I will have an alternative motion. The alternative motion is going to focus around particularly the brickwork and the mortar, if at the least common being that this does go to SAT. Councillor McCulloch has highlighted many points in reference to heritage, to the heritage panel, ticking the boxes. We can go over this. It's always a contentious issue in small Guildford, and I don't think we need to go through that anymore. While we would support an IGA, it would be reflective if it was taken into consideration that the scale of the building, the type of the building, particularly the colour of the bricks and the mortar at the very least would be taken into consideration, and that's something that I'll bring up in that alternative motion if not. I know we've touched on a lot of the issues about size, scale, bulk, parking. There's other things to consider, other appropriate things rather than awnings. We look at bullnose verandas, timber windows, setbacks, signage, those things that are appropriate. And we know that the Guildford policy exists, and I'm just asking councillors to consider this, that policy is there for a reason. It's there for our tourism, it's there for our heritage, it's there for our communities and for those ratepayers that are investing a lot of money in their properties. So I'll just ask councillors to consider that when they vote. Thank you.
Question. Well, to whoever's presiding, I suppose.
It's back to me.
You're presiding again. Are you able to read out your motion? It's just not in our run sheet. We've just got no idea what you're going to propose.
That's okay. We read the whole thing. I think we're going to pop up on the screen. Is that possible? No.
Point of order,
Just one moment. Thank
7.21A, and I'm directing it to the presiding person at the moment, which I believe is the Deputy Mayor.
Let me just take a look. 7.21B.
1A, a breach of any written law, including this local law. And my understanding is, one, the meeting wasn't, presiding duties wasn't passed on to you. Two, the Mayor is appearing to make a decision on her own alternative motion, which is in breach of this standing orders as well. So can we have a ruling if this motion is lost, whether that will be allowed, please?
Yeah, look, my understanding is that alternate motions need to be submitted 2 days prior to the meeting, unless the Mayor authorises it. But in this case, I'm not quite, as the Mayor is submitting it, I guess the Mayor is entitled to approve it herself. I don't know whether at that point that needs to be handed over to me. Can't actually, never come across this situation before. Can we get some advice from the CEO?
Thank you. My wording.
Thank you. And my understanding from the earlier discussion I had with the Mayor is she's not seeking to move an alternate. It's the officer's motion with an amendment. Now, under the standing orders, an amendment can be moved at any time during debate. So just to clarify, my understanding from the discussion I'd had with her this afternoon is that if this was lost, that is the alternate motion was lost and the officer's recommendation was being moved, she was going to move an amendment to the officer's recommendation, which is on the brick colour. So and that's basically what is being put forward. So, Mr Deputy Mayor, I can only give you that advice.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Look, as I understand, I'm still presiding at this moment. I believe that is correct. I believe, Madam Mayor, what you are intending is that you are letting us know that you are likely to be wanting to amend the officer's recommendation, and that's perfectly reasonable and in line with the meeting procedures local law. So with that, I'll hand the chair back to yourself, Madam Mayor.
Need to rule on that.
Deputy Mayor, if I may.
Just one moment. Need to rule on the point of order. Councillor Bowman.
As to whether there's been a breach of the written law, no, I don't think there has.
Deputy Mayor,
Sorry,
you still have the chair, I think.
You need to hand
Did
that.
Let's hear the question.
Did the Mayor actually use the words foreshadow that should move the officer's recommendation? I don't recall hearing the word foreshadow.
I think the Mayor did say that, yeah. Okay.
Okay, you hand the chair back.
Just a clarification, if I can continue in my presiding mode. Councillor Miles pointed out earlier on that 8.2.7 enabled the Mayor to use her discretion to allow a councillor to move the officer's recommendation, so we actually don't need to foreshadow. That's my ruling on that one. Thank you. Back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, councillors.
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor. I just have a quick question because originally when you were speaking, you did say you have an alternative motion. So I'm just trying to wrap my head and understand where is this alternative motion because...
It was meant to be an amendment.
Yeah, but you didn't say... My
No.
apologies. I'm just trying to wrap my head again around what you said because you didn't say it was an amendment.
It was meant to be an amendment, my apologies, to the officer's recommendation.
Okay.
So a little bit of confusion. First time because I don't normally have to do that during the meeting and speak to something. So to be clear, it was an alternative motion. Sorry, amendment. I've got it written in front of me. Amendment. Okay. So now we go back to your right of reply.
Is everybody else finished speaking now?
Was there anyone? Well, I was the last, I think. But I'll ask, does anyone like to speak for the motion?
You were the last one. So
That's what I thought. Okay. So councillors, it's your right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank Councillor McCullough for understanding of Guildford's heritage policy. And yes, it is a fact that putting a building between the courthouse and the Barker's warehouse would have a significant and almost certainly permanent impact on this wonderful heritage streetscape, which is almost still intact. To address some of Councillor Henderson's comments, Councillor Henderson said it's a commercial decision, and I do see that. However, that's why we have a heritage policy to protect Guildford. If commercial decisions alone decided what happened in Guildford without any planning controls, I think the whole place would have been flattened years ago. So that's why we've got a heritage policy to control it. It's a very popular place. Car parking, I don't think it's up to the applicant to decide how many car parking bays they provide. We have a car parking policy. It's in a local planning scheme, and this is a significant shortfall. And as for it's a good use, well, an IGA is a good use, but not in this location. But the heritage streetscape itself is a good use of this site. So, councillors, I'd urge you to support my motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillors, I'll now put that to the vote. Those in favour? So we had Councillor Catalano, Councillor Dawn, Councillor Oringo, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Jones, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Miles, Councillor Knight, Councillor Budovnik, Deputy Mayor Johnson, Councillor Howlett, and myself, and those against, and Councillor Singh, and Councillor Zanino, and Councillor Henderson. I had 12. 12-3? 12-3. Motion's carried. Okay, now we move on to 14.3.3, consideration of submissions, proposed amendment to local planning scheme. Just flip pages here. Upside down. Number 17, to rezone lot 9112 Midland Road, Bushmead from unzoned to special use. Zone number 14, LPS 17195, page 88. Councillor Howlett.
Thank you. My motion is that Council resolve to 1. Note the submissions received on proposed amendment number 195 to local planning scheme number 17. 2. Not support proposed amendment number 195 to local planning scheme number 17 for the following reasons. A. The floristic community SCP-3C, as identified in the amendment, is a threatened ecological community and is listed as endangered under the West Australian and Commonwealth legislation. And B. A special use zone amendment will result in the loss of mature trees and will negatively impact on the flora and fauna, resulting in decreased habitat for marsupials, reptiles and bird life, including the endangered black cockatoos. And 3. Forward the proposed amendment documents and Council's resolution to the West Australian Planning Commission for their consideration and advise to the Minister. The reason for my motion is that the floristic community Swan Coastal Plain, SCP-3C, as identified in the amendment, is a TEC, Threatened Ecological Community, and is listed as endangered under West Australian and Commonwealth legislation. A special use zone amendment will result in loss of mature trees and will negatively impact on the flora and fauna, resulting in decreased habitat for marsupials, reptiles and bird life, including the endangered black cockatoos.
Thank you, Councillor Hallett. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dawn? Is anyone against? Carried. Thank you, councillors. And now we move on. We move on to 14.5.3, which is the sale of land rates and charges outstanding for more than 3 years on page 220. And you're already ready. Councillor Budovnik, if you'd like to read out your motion.
Okay, the motion is that Council resolve to 1. Defer this item to come back to the June ordinary Council meeting. 2. Report to Council on the Wednesday of the June OCM which properties have entered into an acceptable payment plan and who has been taken off the list by close of business and prior to Council voting on this item. 3. Seek more information about their personal circumstances and bring this information back to Council in a confidential report to satisfy Council that we are not selling homes belonging to people who need advocacy and more support. The reasons for the motion is 1. This motion seeks to give more time. We already deferred a similar item to allow residents additional time to respond, and we have a report on that matter coming back to Council next month. So next month. 2. All houses with outstanding debts have caveats on their certificate of title, so our financial interest is protected while we give more time. 3. Our hardship policy was created to help us better identify and flag those who are vulnerable earlier on in our debt collection process, and keeping good notes on our system regarding discussions had with people who ring our rates department is an important part of that process, particularly people who express being suicidal, in domestic violence situations, terminally ill or other personally challenging situations. 4. This motion encourages better record keeping on individual circumstances to improve the quality of the reports that come to council. Providing that context will help us to respond compassionately and appropriately to those who are struggling. 5. A record-keeping system that better tracks and flags situations of vulnerability much earlier on in the debt collection process aligns with the intent of the City of Swan's financial hardship policy.
Thank you very much. I have a seconder. Councillor Jones. Is there anyone against? Question?
Just a question to the relevant exec manager. Is this the same 4 properties that came to council a while ago? Then there was a change, or are these completely new 4 properties?
Mr Travascus?
Through the chair, these properties weren't part of the recent list from the last meeting. The history of the legal actions included in the report, or the actions taken.
Okay. I'll ask councillors, is anyone against the motion? Do you wish to debate it? Thank you.
I've actually outlined all of the reasons. I just want to add a comment from the report. The officer's comment basically says the city has been contacted by 3 of the 4 property owners with regards to making payment, and deferring the item will allow them more time to make these arrangements. So these people are trying to unlock their superannuation.
Thank you, Councillor Brodovnik. Councillor Jones is the seconder. Nothing to add?
Question.
Question?
Yes, I guess it's a question for the mover of the motion. Reason 5 says a record-keeping system that better tracks and flags situations of vulnerability much earlier in the debt collection process aligns with the intent of City of Swan's financial policy. But is that a reason for the 3 items in the resolution? Is reason 5 a reason for the 3 items in the resolution?
I've included this reason because very early on, when we created the financial hardship policy, we sought to better flag these situations. And I feel, when I look at the report to council, that that hasn't been achieved, and I'm putting it in there because I feel that we just need to try and do a little bit better here.
So further question then, through you, Madam Mayor, to the CEO, is do we have a record-keeping system that better tracks and flags situations of vulnerability? Like, do we have a register of this kind of information?
Mr CEO?
So if I could just make a brief comment. The reasons for decision don't form part of the motion. That's the rationale the member is using to apply as to why. So the city does keep a record system that deals with the individual circumstances where they do this, where they have need, but we don't go around across all ratepayers saying these ratepayers are flagged for vulnerability. That's simply not our responsibility, or do we have a capacity to do that?
Okay. I'll ask, is anyone against? Councillor Bowman.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. And to start with, my hat's off to Councillor Brodovnik, because she always on these items every time. But that's why I'm actually against this item tonight. I'm against it because something's not working. Every time these reports come to council, they're deferred. Then a motion gets changed. Then information comes back. So I'm against us deferring and deferring. I'd rather see perhaps a review of the process because we shouldn't have to be, and I would have hoped that staff would have taken on board any of the comments, particularly that Councillor Brodovnik has made in a number of debates on why she keeps deferring these items, because it should be a signal to staff that either our policy is not right or we don't think the process is right. The Deputy Mayor picked up points that I was going to make as well. Deferring it because we think there's not good record keeping, or we should be doing better record keeping, I can't agree with. I believe our record keeping is extremely good. It always can be better, but councillors, we need to look at these ones. We need to look at why we keep deferring these. staff are bringing them to us because it's our policy. Staff have been dealing with these ratepayers for more than 3 years, because for more than 3 years they haven't paid their rates, they haven't complied with an agreement, they haven't done the things that they've said they were going to do or need to do. And it gets to the time, because all the time the staff are spending is time that they could have been spent on other ratepayers who are actually incurring these costs as well. So I think councillors, we either need to give clear direction to staff of what we want to see changed, or otherwise, unfortunately, we're going to keep seeing these items come back to council, and we're more than likely going to keep deferring them and deferring them. Councillors, you can only sell a property when it's more than 3 years. Councillors, staff go and actually try and work with these people as well. And then, for example, in some of these, and don't want to get into the personal situations, to say they're trying to get into their super, well, they could have done that 6 months ago. They could have done it 3 years ago. So, councillors, I just have to ask, when's enough on these items? And unfortunately for me tonight, it's tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. I'll ask if anyone would like to speak for the motion. Councillor Dawn.
Thanks very much for that. I support the motion because I think the fact that caveats are on the certificate of title, so I think it's pretty much the financial interests of the City of Swan is definitely taken care of. And yeah, sure, I think doing better and perhaps in the record keeping system for sure, if we've got definitely those capabilities. But we're just talking about a small amount of people here, and the fact that caveats are there, I think just explains all of it. I think that's the answer for everything, and that's been covered.
Thank you, Councillor Dawn. I'll ask if anyone wants to speak against the motion. Anyone like to speak
For
the motion?
Yeah, look, I'm going to support this for pretty much the same thinking that Councillor Bowman has come up with, but I've come down on a different side. I think that we need a record-keeping system that for those people who are more than 3 years in arrears and whom we're about to take action against, every time this kind of information comes to council, we need to see the complete register of those people and what the status is, so we can understand, are we just deferring the same people over and over again? What's the total position in terms of people who are in arrears? Is it getting worse? Is it getting better? And if they've made a commitment to go to an advisory service to get a hardship statement, then have they actually done that? You know, and have they actually entered into a payment plan? I know we have criteria, we've got a hardship policy, but I think we need to start looking at record keeping. So instead of every month there are 3 new people, or maybe it's the same 3 people on the list, we want to see the entire situation in the red folder, so we know exactly what we're dealing with. So I'll support it, but I think we need to look at better record keeping. I'm sure we've got good record keeping, but I think we need to present the information slightly differently. So I'll support it one more time, because I think that we are getting interest. We've got a caveat on the property. We're getting interest on the rates owing. In fact, we're getting compound interest on it at 5% a year, I believe. Is that the right amount? 5%? Is it 5%, Mr. CEO? Anybody know? 5%? Yeah, I'm getting a nod. So it's compound interest at 5%, so we're not losing out. That's quite a good rate of interest, but I think we need to have a more disciplined way of understanding exactly what the total position is. Thank you.
I have a question.
So I'll let my fellow councillor go first.
Ladies first. Thank you.
Councillor Ringo.
I just have a quick question to the relevant exec. Prior to the notice of the houses being put up or being under the thing for sale by City of Swan, in that 3 years prior to that happening, because I assume City would have been sending notice of default and arrears all this time, have any of these properties made contact with the city prior to, I guess, the last 6 months, or whenever it is that they've decided to make contact with the city? In the last 3 years, have they made any contact from the first set of arrears that was due on their properties with the city to explain, I don't know, or even have a chat about their circumstance or anything, or let the city know of changes in circumstance?
I'll ask the relevance of Mr. Travascus.
Through the chair, so there is in the report detail of what correspondence has happened for each property owner, what legal action has taken, and wherever there's been a payment plan either entered into or defaulted on, that's contained in the report. So all of the property owners have a history of arrears and not paying their outstanding rates. The process is detailed in the debt collection policy. So essentially, when there's arrears, a final notice goes out. We then commence legal proceedings. To get to this stage, the rates have to be outstanding for more than 3 years, and we have to demonstrate that we have taken legal action and tried to enter in payment plans. So when it gets to this stage, the policy dictates that we may proceed to sell the land, hence why these come to council, because it is a council decision on whether or not to proceed. We prepare the reports and bring them to council in accordance with the policy. So is that... Yeah.
Is there a further question? Councillor Ringo, no further question. Councillor Bowman had a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the CEO. Can the CEO advise if it's the role of council to review the full operational file of an individual ratepayer, or is that the role of staff and we just get a summary?
Mr. CEO.
Thank you. If I could draw your attention then to the Local Government Act 17, I'm just going to get there now, because I'll give you an answer that includes the legislative framework. The principles under the role of council under 2.73 A, the council's governing role is separate from the CEO's executive role as described in section 541. So no, it's not a function of council to see detailed lists of debtors and try and get into debtor management. Council can only deal with the items that are presented to it for its decision. You'd be aware, councillors, each month we give you a financial report. That financial report indicates the issue of the debt recovery of the city, and we take debt management even to the audit. So we just can't come back and give you a list and say, here are 100, 200 ratepayers and give you that information where it's not relevant to the decision you're making.
Okay, Councillor Dawn.
I just had two questions. To the exec staff, for the recovery level there, why are all the claims different? Under the recovery level, the judgment issue, recovery level, you got goods warranted issued, judgment issued. The recovery levels, why are they all different if it's basically the same debt? Yeah.
Mr. Travascus.
Question? Sorry.
No.
Through the chair, if the question is why the rates amounts that we're pursuing the arrears different, obviously...
No, that's not my question. Hang on a minute. The recovery level, I'm sorry, that's not my question. The recovery level that says property seizure and sale order, and then here you've got general procedure claim, because they all just owe money, they owe their rate. So why is it called something different?
Yeah, through the chair. So that's when we get to that stage of legal recovery, there's several options which we can take, including the general procedure, PSSO. So normally you escalate through the legal requirements, but depending on the property owner, depending on the equity they hold in the property, other assets they might have, a different legal action might be taken before we get to this stage. So that they're not always exactly the same. They are sometimes dependent on the circumstances of the property owner.
Okay, thank you. And the other question was the cost of McLeod's, like the debt recovery for the cost of this sort of debt recovery. I know the CEO mentioned about McLeod's invoicing but that doesn't sort of say these for 4 properties or whatnot. So what would be the average sort of a cost to of these essentially?
Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, I'll have to take that on notice. Yeah.
Councillor, is there any further questions? No, we're going to go back to the debate. I'll ask, does anyone like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for the motion? No? Your right of reply.
Just very quickly, I do actually agree with Councillor Bowman. I think we do need a review, but tonight is not the night to have a discussion about a review. It is actually a very complicated area. I've been working in it for 5 years now, I guess, and there is a lot to say. So I'm happy to have a chat to councillors about what I think would be a good win-win situation, but that's again not for tonight. Tonight what we're simply doing is asking for a couple of months to give some people a bit of extra time to unlock their superannuation. Please support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Brodovnik. I'll ask those who are for the motion. Councillor Catalano, Councillor Dawn, Councillor Singh, Councillor Jones, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Miles, Councillor Knight, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Brodovnik, Deputy Mayor Johnson, Councillor Howlett and myself, and those against. Councillor Ringo, Councillor Bowman, and Councillor Zanino. The motion is carried. 12-3. Thank you. Councillors, we move on to the next item, which is 14.5.4. New Junction Project and Financial Annual Report 2023-24, page 227, proposed motion by Councillor Howlett. If you'd like to please read out your motion.
Thank you. My proposed motion is that the council resolve to 1, receive the New Junction Project and Financial Annual Report 2023/24. 2, the report to be published on the city's website for public access and transparency. 3, advises CEO to continue presenting a separate annual New Junction Project report to council. And the reason for my motion is that the reporting and publishing of the New Junction Project and Financial Annual Report was a motion of council to provide transparency to the public. It provides a timely snapshot and financial update which benefits the community, investors and council interested in the project and how it's tracking.
Thank you, Councillor Howlett. Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor? Is anyone against? Do you wish to debate it?
I wish to foreshadow the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Yep, says foreshadow it. Does anyone wish to debate it?
Yes.
Councillor Howlett?
Okay, I'll start, thank you. Councillors, it's now 10 years since this council adopted the MORM in November 2015, the MORM being the Midland Oval Redevelopment Master Plan. And it's fair to say that it's faced many challenges over those 10 years, including public perception. The reporting and publishing of the New Junction Project and Financial Annual Report was a motion of council to support in providing transparency to the public and assisting in public perception and public understanding of the project. If the information is prepared and presented in the city's annual report and published on the website, I fail to see how it is onerous to continue preparing this report for council.
Thank you, Councillor Howlett. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, we get a New Junction annual report every year. I think that that motion was finally passed after many years of trying to get it across the line in 2022. I think nearly 6 years, at least twice a year, I put this motion forward, and finally we got a report. And the motion required that the reports be produced annually. Councillors, we lost a major piece of public open space in Midland, and instead we got a business.
the new junction project. And that was supposed to provide us with a fourth revenue stream. So besides grants, fees and charges and rates, it was supposed to provide a massive sort of avalanche of money that would reduce our dependency on our three traditional revenue streams. But it became apparent over the years that was not happening, and actually lots of money was being spent on this project and we didn't really see any return. If you've got a business, you need to have financial accounts for it. And what the accounts show is, for all the money that's invested in it, we're not actually seeing very much return. We're seeing a return, I think, this year of minus $126,000. And it was never anticipated 10 years ago that this project would lead to losses year after year after year. Enormous amount of ratepayers' capital assets invested in this. And the way that the project is going, and as we look at the annual reports as they're produced, one thing we can see is that very steadily the amount of capital employed will reduce and the losses will continue until the end it snuffs itself out and all we have left is Weir Park and the rates. There never will be any major financial windfall for the city. Nevertheless, we need to continue this reporting because we need to understand exactly what is going on with this business of the cities. In my view, it's quite sad that it produces so little, but we need to report it. Another development I compare it with is on a completely different scale across the other side of Australia in New South Wales, the Barangaroo development, which I know is 1,000 or 1,000,000 times bigger than this one. That produces an annual report. They explain the capital employed and how much money is being made. If this is our flagship project in the city, and until the Ellenbrook Pool came along,
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. That's your 3 minutes.
We need to report. Thank you.
Extension of time? No, all good. Thank you. Did you have a question, Councillor Dawn? Thank you. Councillors, does anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I'll keep my points relevant because we're only talking about the financials and not my views on what I think about the new junction project. But Madam Mayor, I don't find anything in this report that I can't see anywhere else. It gives me a history lesson, which I know, and we've provided that all the time. Madam Mayor, I actually question whether this should have ever been in here because we're not making a decision. And if we actually go to the department guidelines, only items that require a decision of this council should come to this council. And those that are noting or receiving, we're not making a decision. So, Madam Mayor, I question why we need this report to come to council every year, where every year we hear certain councillors provide their advice or their views on the new junction project, when all we're doing is receiving this report. So, Madam Mayor, I had foreshadowed the officer's recommendation, which is the same as 1 and 2 that has moved, but simply saying I don't see a reason to continue this report because I don't see any benefit that I'm getting and I don't see any new information that is provided to me in this report that I don't already have access to.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. I'll ask, are there any councillors who'd like to speak for the motion? Are there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion?
Question. Could the CEO give us an outline of how many hours have gone into producing these, not just this one, and what the estimated cost would be for that?
Possibly through you, Mr. CEO.
Look, in part I might defer to Mr. Travascus, but there is a considerable amount of time required. And I'll just point out it's the same information that we also then have to present in the annual report, or mostly in the annual report. So I'll just pick up, you're actually seeing it twice. But Mr. Travascus, in preparing this report, how much time did you spend?
Through the chair, I'll have to take that on notice.
Thank you. I'll just ask again, are there any councillors who wish to speak for the motion or against the motion? Councillor Catalano.
Well, I'd like to speak against it. Thank you. This financial report does nothing to give me confidence in this controversial and incredibly flawed project that has resulted in the loss of public open space, which, if Midland is to benefit from apartment-style developments, infill into the future, it will desperately need. So where are the costs of the loss of this public open space? Where is that in the report? The project reduces the amount of public open space needed, especially the requirement for good quality Central Park, and without that park, Midland will remain unattractive.
Point of order.
Just one moment, Councillor Catalano. Councillor Bowman, your point of order.
I believe it's 7.2 subsection C, irrelevant. We're not talking about public open space, we're talking about receiving the financials of the New Junction project annual report.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. I uphold that you do have a point of order. Councillor Catalano, this is about the report.
Okay, the report is deficient as it does not quantify the cost of Midland remaining unattractive and not meeting its infill targets. And that the targets are unlikely to be reached. There's no numbers about that, which I predict. And that then adds cost to the rest of the city in that we have the pressure for urban sprawl, the loss of bushland and nature. Basically.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Catalano, if you'd like to resume your seat. Councillor Bowman, what's your point of order, please?
7.2 subsection C, we're not talking about loss of space, we're talking about the New Junction project financial annual report.
Thank you. I uphold that you do have a point of order. Councillor Catalano, it's about the
financials. I understand it, but there's a financial cost to all of these losses. There's a financial cost to the loss of bushland. There's a financial cost to the loss of public.
Just one moment, if you could resume your seat, please. Councillor Bowman.
7.2 subsection C.
Thank you.
Relevance. We're not talking about loss of bushland. We're talking about the New Junction project financial annual report.
Yes, and I uphold your point of order. Just one moment, Councillor Catalano, if you could just resume your seat for a moment. So I've said I uphold your point of order. This is the third time. We're talking about council receiving a financial annual report. We're not going into reasons about community or bushland or reasons for it. It's about whether we receive the New Junction project or financial annual report. Thank you.
And my answer is no, because it does not put into the account the full cost of the loss to the city. That is what I'm saying. Cost. Financial cost. There is a cost to all of these losses that I've pointed out. So please don't take me on, don't say that I'm not addressing that. What's happening is the report is not addressing those financial costs.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Just one moment, Councillor Catalano. Councillor Bowman.
7.2 subsection C, relevance. We're not talking about the losses of other properties. We're talking about the project, the New Junction project annual financial report.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. I will uphold your point of order. Councillor Catalano, you have a minute and 13 left.
Yes, thank you for taking up my time with points of order. The point is that the costs of this project extend out into the community, and that should be in the report, is what I'm saying. And, you know, this is despite the fact that the tens of millions that have been spent on this project, heading towards probably 100 million by now, performance indicators all failed miserably and didn't reach above single-digit figures even after the 10 years. New Junction is, was and always will be a financial dud in the rapidly spiralling down, declining fortunes of Midland. Look, you know, everyone's waiting for the goose to lay the golden egg. But
point of order, Madam Mayor.
Just one moment, Councillor Catalano, if you could resume your seat, please. Councillor Bowman.
7.2 subsection C, relevance. We're not talking about a golden goose. We're talking about the New Junction project annual financial reports.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. I'll uphold your point of order. Councillor Catalano.
The goose, my friends, has already flown and it is now in Ellenbrook.
Thank you very much, Councillor Catalano.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
It's already finished speaking. Thank you, Councillor Bowman.
Question.
Councillors, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I've got a question, Madam Mayor, about points of order. Is it absolutely essential to read out the point of order number? So about 7.21.
Yes, it is, Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, so in that case, can we just explain, is it essential to get it exactly correct?
Just one moment, Deputy Mayor.
So if we have to read it out, do we have to get it right? The reason I ask is because Councillor Bowman is reading out 7.2.
Just one moment, Deputy Mayor. If you could just give me a minute, please. Okay?
He's reading out
Deputy Mayor,
7.21C.
if you could just give me a minute, please.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Just without speaking for a minute, so I can collect my
okay,
thoughts.
that's fine. I'll do that.
Thank you.
We're all here to help you.
Right. So 7.2.1, the following are to be recognised as valid points of order. A breach of any written law, including this local law and the City of Swan Code of Conduct for councillors and committee members.
So when we're reading out these numbers, which I understand are extremely important to you, Madam Mayor, do they have to be read out exactly correctly?
Okay. Yes. Okay. Mr. CEO, if you could provide some advice, please.
Thank you, and yes is the answer, because if you then seek to go to procedural motion, which seems to disagree with the presiding member's ruling, you need to know which section of the meeting procedures you're disagreeing with against the presiding member. So therefore specifying what your point of order is, the presiding member necessary ruling on it, and then giving you the opportunity under 9.1H, the answer is yes.
So if these points of order are not correctly numbered, then they're not valid, are they?
I'm sorry?
If the points of order that you are dealing with have not been correctly numbered, i.e. 7.21C, if you don't give the whole number, then the point of order is not valid. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so what I heard throughout this point of order scenario was that Councillor Bowman said 7.2C, not 7.21C. So those points of order should not have been considered.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
So what are we going to do?
Well, we'll correct that from now on, and I'm sure that everyone will help each other learn and bring it up, and hopefully we don't go through this again. Right. Thank you very much. Now, is there any councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Are there any councillors who'd like to speak for the motion? Are there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? No? Your right of reply.
Thank you. As Councillor Bowman is one of 15 councillors, that he should see no value in this report is a matter for him. There are 14 other councillors that may see value in this report. This report contains an annual financial report, a P&L, cash flow and balance sheet, which is not published on the City's annual report. There is value to council in receiving this. Given that the officer's comment is that the information is a duplication and already available, then I see little problem in continuing in this report, as was a motion of council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hallett. I'll ask councillors, those in favour of the motion. Councillor Catalano, Councillor Dawn, Councillor Knight, Councillor Brodovnik, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Hallett. And those against? Councillor Singh, Councillor Ringo, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Jones, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Miles, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Henderson and myself. So it's lost 6-9. Councillor Bowman, you foreshadowed the officer's recommendation.
That's correct.
Just writing something down here. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Jones, thank you. Is anyone against? Yep. Do you wish to debate it?
Yeah, I do.
I'm asking Councillor Catalano. Did you wish to debate it? No. Oh, you both had hands up, so that's fine. That's fine. I looked at you. I looked at Councillor. Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Well, I'm not moving the motion.
So I didn't want to debate it.
Thank you.
We can just move straight to a vote.
Councillors, those in favour?
Madam Mayor, I
Just
said
one moment.
I want to debate it.
My
so therefore we need
apologies,
to move
Deputy Mayor.
to the person moving the motion. Do you understand?
I beg your pardon?
Do you understand?
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Bowman.
Madam Mayor, I think we've had enough debate. I'm fine.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Seconder. Nothing to add? Deputy Mayor.
Councillors, we have $40 million invested in this, and any reasonable business person with $40 million invested in it would want an annual report explaining explaining how the money was being spent, what the profit and loss, what the cash flow, and what the balance sheet situation was. The information that we get in this report was not known to councillors prior to us receiving the first report, which I think was in sometime 2022. We got 10 years of back reports as a result of that, and we could see the exact position, which we'd never been able to see previously. What we saw was year after year, loss after loss after loss, more and more money invested in it, and it's becoming clear that the outcome will simply be that the capital employed reduces and the P&L continues to decline. So councillors, we have a responsibility to our ratepayers to continue receiving this information. It is our major flagship project, or at least it was until about 2 years ago. We need to have the financial reports, and we also need to have the information explaining what is going on that site, because this is the only way for our ratepayers and even for us as councillors to understand what is actually happening. You'll have noticed it's gone all quiet on the front of the Midland Road, and without this report, we'll probably never hear from it again. It will probably just gradually wither away. So, councillors, that's why I'm opposed to the officer's recommendation. We need to continue to produce this report because that's what we need to do as responsible elected members of council. Thank you.
Councillors, anyone like to speak in favour? Anyone like to speak against? Councillor Catalano.
Given what I previously tried to say about the hidden costs and also about the costs that are the failure of the financial failure of the project as it is described with the numbers given in the report, and it's a pity that I can't actually speak my mind about the dire position that this project has put Midland in, and to some extent the City of Swans ratepayers. But nevertheless, there are hidden costs, and they are quite severe, not only for Midland but for the whole of the city. There are real problems with this project in terms of
Point of order.
realising
Councillor
a
Catalano,
return.
if you could resume your seat, please. Councillor Bowman, what's your point of order?
7.2C, but to be specific, 7.2 subsection 1C, relevant. We're talking about the new junction project annual financial report.
Thank you. I uphold your point of order. Councillor Catalano.
Yes, that's correct. We are talking about that, and performance indicators all failed miserably and didn't reach above single-digit figures. That's reported even after the 10 years. So that's what's reported. That's not taking into account all of the losses that haven't been reported, and there are costs to those. Just there are costs to, losing a tree, for instance. There is a cost to it. But the thing I really can't understand here tonight is that so many councillors around this council voted for this project, and they were absolutely convinced that it was the greatest thing going.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Just one moment. Councillor Catalano, if you could resume your seat, please. Councillor Bowman, what's your point of order?
7.2 subsection 1 for certainty, C, relevance. Whether councillors around this table voted for the project or not, we are talking about the new junction project annual financial report and receiving that.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Councillor Catalano.
Yes, we are. We're talking about councillors receiving that, and I do not understand. I do not understand why councillors would not support continuing to receive that financial report.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Just one moment, Councillor Bowman. If I could just slow down, please. Councillor Catalano, if you could resume your seat, please. Councillor Bowman, what is your point of order?
To change things up, 7.21, subsection E. It's uncalled for insinuation that can't understand.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. I'll oppose your point of order. Councillor Catalano, if you could keep it
Well, I'm
respectful,
sorry,
please.
but I don't understand how councillors around this in this chamber could possibly not support wanting to know the ramifications of their decisions, the financial ramifications for ratepayers, for Midland, for the rest of the city, why they wouldn't want to know that in every detail to actually be reassured that they made the right decision, that actually I might be even wrong. Don't you want to know the financial implications of your decision
Point of
making?
order, Madam Mayor.
Just one moment, Councillor Catalano, if you could resume your seat, please. Councillor Bowman.
7.21, subsection E. Councillor Catalano is implying that we do not want to know. I already do know.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. I'll hold your point of order. Councillor Catalano.
Correct. I am asking that question because this motion is a motion to no longer bring this report back to council, which means that council will not have access even to these deficient numbers before us tonight that don't have the full costs. And without those numbers, how are you going to ever know what's tracking down there other than going past and going, my God, what a mess? So it's actually beholden on us as responsible councillors.
Thank you, Councillor
to keep
Catalano.
our
That's
eye
your
on
3
the
minutes.
financial ball.
Councillors Lask, does anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Henderson.
Okay. I'm surprised what I'm hearing because I'm actually hearing councillors saying they don't want to receive this report because the motion recommendations is receive the new junction report, project and financial annual report. I actually think we should receive this one and make it available to people. But I just wanted to make it that point very clear that what we've got here is to receive this, and I'm satisfied with what's been presented to us. More importantly, we do get an opportunity to look at the annual report, which has got enough detail to satisfy me as to progress. Importantly, though, we have got to ensure that we're not wasting our staff's time on presenting endless reports on things where we can already get the information, and that's why I think we should support this motion as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Anyone like to speak against the motion?
Question?
Question?
Through you, if a councillor wanted to see a financial annual report for example, 24-25, would that be made available upon request?
Mr. Travascus or Mr. CEO?
Thank you. Through the chair, we would make available the financial data as reported in the annual report, which includes all of the key metrics for this project, but not individual reports for individual councillors on financial statements.
Thank you. Councillors, would anyone like to speak against the motion? Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Not, you're right to reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, in this report that we are receiving, Madam Mayor, I agree with Councillor Johnson, $40 million is a lot of money. But Madam Mayor, we have a budget of over $250 million and we manage that by receiving monthly financial reports that actually provides us the details. When we receive a report that's a year, it's out of date. Madam Mayor, how do we know? Well, Madam Mayor, when I look at this report, and that's the question, How do we know? And we want to keep informed. I come to briefing meetings. I come to briefing meetings on things like the Providence conceptual plans. I come to briefings and ask information about that. So I don't need to read it 6 months later in a report when I've got more information provided to me and I've been able to ask questions of the actual applicants. So, Madam Mayor, there is nothing in this report except for history, which, Madam Mayor, I can find. I know about it. Madam Mayor, members of the public can see it. So, Madam Mayor, I do not understand why we need to continue presenting a separate annual report, that although the exec director couldn't answer how long it would take, I expect to put it all together, it wouldn't be a couple of hours job. So, Madam Mayor, as Councillor Henderson said, the motion is to receive this report, but the difference of the alternative or the previous motion was simply not to continue providing it to council.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Singh, Councillor Ringo, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Jones, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Miles, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Brodovnik, and myself. Those against? Councillor Catalano, Councillor Dawn, Councillor Knight, Deputy Mayor, and Councillor Howlett. It's carried. Was it? Oh, 10-3 was it? Sorry. Carried 10-5. Thank you very much, councillors. And for those watching at home, we're just going to adjourn for 10 minutes and we'll be back online. Thank you. To those watching at home, welcome back to the Ordinary Council meeting, and we are up to item 14.5.5, which is lots 503 and 504, Paradise Keys, Balladura, on page 271. Proposed motion by Councillor Knight. If you'd like to please read out your motion.
Thank you. Am I reading the whole thing or just the red?
The
whole
points and the reason for the motion.
Sorry, did you say the whole thing?
Yes. Or through you, Mr. CEO.
So through the chair, you could just move the officer's recommendation with the following amendments at point 4, 5 and 6 as that's basically what your amendment is.
Well, I might just read that out, I suppose. So, okay. The council resolved to adopt the officer's recommendation with the addition of point 5 and point 6. 1, to note the submissions received and the responses provided. 2, for the city to host regular meetings between relevant city officers, the Lakes Estate Action Group and Wattle Fairway to refine the concept plan to inform a formal development application. 3, to authorise the CEO to finalise his disposal of lot 501, in brackets proposed lots 503 and 504, Paradise Keys, Balladura, and proceed with the settlement process, ensuring all conditions of sale and development agreement are met. Number 4, to note the inclusion in the condition of sale which requires lot 505, brackets, a portion of Emu Swamp Reserve to be ceded to the Crown upon finalisation of subdivision. Number 5, to amend the sale and development agreement to include the residential aged care facility in the definition of substantial commencement. Number 6, to retain all street trees on Paradise Keys Road wherever possible and require that the developer provide robust validation before any permanent loss of trees occurs, including that site works adhere to AS 4790 regarding protection of trees. The reason for the motion is Balladura is in dire need of an aged care facility and it should be given priority in terms of the construction. The inclusion of the residential aged care facility, in brackets RAC, is in the sale and development agreement will ensure that the timing of the RAC is aligned with the broader development program, which requires substantial commencement 24 months from settlement or issue of titles, whichever is the later. And number 2, protection of trees on Paradise Keys Road are very important to the community and as it's the entrance to the suburb. The conditions above are from public submissions and have community support.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. I'll ask the seconder, Councillor Miles.
Can I ask a question, please?
Question, Councillor Henderson.
On number part 6 of the motion, it says to retain all street trees, and then it says wherever possible. Perhaps that's in conflict. Would the mover be prepared to remove the word all?
Councillor Knight.
Yeah. If that helps, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we had Councillor Miles as the seconder. Is anyone against? It's carried. Thank you. Now, we move on to 15.1. Motions of which previous notice has been given. 15.1, Deputy Mayor Johnson, Council Policy to govern annual meetings of electors and special electors meetings on page 354. Deputy Mayor Johnson submitted the following notice of motion. Deputy Mayor, can you please read out your motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My motion is that Council resolve to request that the CEO draft a council policy to govern annual meetings of electors and special electors meetings. 2, the CEO to consider if the policy should include holding a special meeting of council to consider the electors' resolutions, each elector's resolution as an individual agenda item at the special meeting of council. The reason for the motion, electors whose motions are carried expect to see individual consideration of the resolutions and subsequent officers' recommendations by council. It is procedurally easier for councillors to vote on and move alternate motions for each individual elector's resolution if it is an independent agenda item at the special meeting of council. Individual consideration of each elector's resolution shows respect for the electors and local democracy.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Do I have a seconder? No. Yep, Councillor Dawn. Is anyone against? Do you wish to debate it? Thank you.
Yeah, councillors, this is straightforward motion to create a policy, the effect of which would be that each of the electors' resolutions at our annual meeting of electors will become an agenda item with the officer's recommendation at a special meeting of council. Now, councillors, some of you might have read the officer's report, but I can assure you, councillors, we've done this before. I think we've done it on at least 2 occasions, and it was very well received because those members of the community who had taken the trouble to turn up, create a resolution, got their resolutions individually considered by council. and it gives councillors the possibility to move alternate motions if they don't like the officer's recommendation. What this does, councillors, is it connects our up-and-coming community activists, organisers, people who are engaged in the community with councillors. It helps to bring people through grow people through the democratic process. It builds social capital. It encourages people that their voices are being heard and that they can have an influence. We need to build this kind of thing, councillors, in our city, and I think in Western Australia and Australia as a whole. We need to actually get grassroots motions and resolutions all the way through the system and into this chamber. It's a fantastic opportunity for people to learn and to see that their voice is being heard. I've had several requests for this over the years. I know Ms. Lendeering is quite keen on this and can recall the time when we did actually have special meetings to consider the outcome of electors' resolutions. I think councillors, we are in a special position. We are elected to represent the community. We need to recognise that people are coming after us. All of us will eventually leave office. This is an opportunity for those people who are going to replace us to see the effect of their actions in the annual meeting of electors and in any special meetings of electors that are held. So, councillors, we need to think about succession planning, people getting new opportunities. And finally, councillors, I'm well aware that annual meetings of electors are covered in the Act and they're covered in policies and so forth. But what we need is to ensure that each resolution is considered individually by this council. When it was done before, it was very well received. I think we would be held in greater regard if we went ahead with this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Dawn is the seconder.
No, thank you. But I agree with what Councillor.
Thank you. I'll ask, is anyone against the motion? Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, succession planning. I'm not sure how this is succession planning. Elected to represent. I have ratepayers tell me and thank me for returning their phone calls. But Madam Mayor, if we narrow down on the annual electors meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, councillors, but any councillor here around this table, all 14 of us and the mayor, so 15 elected members, we can move alternative motions. We can take out motions from the annual electors meeting recommendation report that officers provide us. And how many of us did it this year? Councillor Johnson did one motion. One. He pulled one out. I second those. But councillors, if it was that important, ask yourself the question, why didn't you pull any of those other motions out that could have been debated? Why? So councillors, we're now going to give staff extra job to do, to create a policy that we may or may not like, that we may or may not adhere to, because we haven't been adhering to our policies tonight, which was a previous item. So councillors, I then go back to the question, why is this motion being put up? The democratic process. Well, the democratic process is any councillor could have pulled it out. The democratic process is any of our electors can come to our electors meetings and move motions. But Councillor Johnson, in his opening couple of sentences, said the word activists, organisers. So is this the reason we're putting this motion up? To please activists and organisers? Because I tell you, that is not what I'm here for. I am here for the residents and ratepayers, not the activists and organisers who want to push our residents and ratepayers in one direction. So councillors, I can't support this motion because the reasons being provided don't sit well with me. I can't support this motion because we all had the opportunity to pull out any of those individual motions that the people came to the electors meeting to put something different in, to ask for further information, a further report. But except for Councillor Johnson, no one else did. So now why is it important?
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. I'll ask, does anyone like to speak for the motion? Anyone like to speak for the motion? Does anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillors, last chance. No one would like to speak against the motion? No, your right of reply.
Thank you, councillors. I'm beginning to think I did a bad thing by moving an alternate motion there to make some changes to the officer's recommendation after the annual meeting of electors. Actually, I did actually pull two of them out and change them, and Councillor Howlett did an amendment. The issue here is it is procedurally challenging because, for reasons that haven't been explained to me in a way that I can understand, we're not allowed to confer on alternate motions. A situation can arise where, and it has arisen in the past, but didn't only arose once last time, where multiple councillors put in alternate motions, and then on the fly in the meeting we have to determine which alternate motions need to be converted into amendments, and it's not a particularly straightforward process. I think I did it, Councillor Howlett did it, but strangely nobody else did. I think that if we had a special meeting with an agenda with individual items on it, councils would find it easier to support their local community. Extra job for staff, councillors. I'm here to represent the community, not the staff. So, Councillor Bowman, you're here to represent the community, not to be concerned about the staff. We can always increase the budget if we need an extra governance officer. So, councillors, activists and organisers, they're the presidents and secretaries and leaders of action groups. They're the people who run our residents associations, they run our footy clubs, they run the bowls clubs. I spend a lot of time going along to these kinds of meetings. Just think, for instance, most recent one is the Swanview Noise Wall Action Group. Well, they're organisers and activists, but they're also residents, and they're ratepayers and they're electors, and they'd like to feel that if they were to put up, and they didn't put up a motion, that it will get individual consideration. So, councillors, we're here to support those presidents and chairs and secretaries and treasurers and people who are just organising ad hoc groups, and we saw plenty of them in the public gallery tonight. So we're here to support those people. So that's why I've put this motion forward. I want to see it easier for people to get their resolutions actually onto the council agenda. And this, I think, is the best way to do it. It's worked extremely well in the past, and I urge you to vote for this. It's only requesting the CEO to draft a policy. We're not actually going to proceed to a special meeting. So, councillors, it does more good than it does harm. It builds social capital. I'd urge you to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Those in favour? Councillor Catalano, Councillor Dawn, Councillor Singh, Councillor Knight, Deputy Mayor Johnson and Councillor Howlett, and those against? Councillor Ringo, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Jones, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Miles, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Podovnik, and myself. The motion is lost. 9-5. 9-6, thank you. 6-9 there. Thank you. Councillors, we move on to 15.2. Councillor Bowman, Traffic Management, Brookmount Drive and Arbour Drive, Ellenbrook, on page 356. Councillor Bowman submitted the following notice of motion. If you could please read out your motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, it gives my pleasure that council resolves to provide a report within 2 months of the traffic calming management project for Brookmount and Arbour Drive. The report includes, amongst other relevant information, the following: the cost spent to date, the works done compared to the report prepared by the consultant on what was needed to be done, what is still outstanding to be done, and when it will be done, the actual heights of the raised asphalt platforms, and what, if any, benefits these have, the community feedback on the project, whether there's been a reduction in the number of vehicles using these roads and the speed of them, the update of these changes to the traffic light signals at the Broadway and the Promenade. And the reason, Madam Mayor, is there's been significant community criticism of the works undertaken, especially given there appears to be no change in traffic. Council needs to be accountable of ratepayers' funds and must ensure maximum benefit of these funds.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Jones. Is anyone against? No? Carried, thank you. Councillors, we move to 15.3. Councillor Bowman, Australian Islamic College Parking, Henley Brook, page 359. Councillor Bowman submitted the following notice of motion. Councillor Bowman, if you'd please read out your motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I move that Council resolves to 1, as soon as practicable, erect no parking, no stopping signs on both sides of Sturian Drive, Henley Brook, between Henley Street and Halfinger Drive. 2, ensure a ranger is present in this location at least weekly, including between 2:30 to 3:30 until evidence of parking compliance in the area is achieved. 3, review the development application of the Islamic school to ensure the traffic and parking plans are being fully adhered to. And 4, continue to engage with the school to encourage strategies to minimise queuing of vehicles in the street and manage parking on the school site. And the reason for the motion, parking and queuing of vehicles in the street seeking to enter the school continues to cause unreasonable impacts on residents and safety. Traffic safety and measures are required to improve parking and traffic management.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Jones. Is anyone against? No.
I'd like to speak, please.
If no one against, it's carried. Or you can't. Anyone else like to? Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Do you wish to debate it?
Councillor Bowman has already said yes.
Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And councillors, my apologies for having to bring this item to council. And the reason I apologise is it was the last avenue that I had. For many, many, many months, residents and ratepayers have been concerned, complaining, questioning a number of issues. And we all get that around schools. We all get issues about parking, but these have been significant and dangerous. And when staff have previously gone out, the responses I've got back is basically nothing to see, all's good, except for 1 or 2 things. So, Madam Mayor, why? Why this one? Well, Madam Mayor, we heard a deputation tonight, which was very timely, about some parking issues. Madam Mayor, we know that Henley Brook Avenue to Park Street is still not constructed. Madam Mayor, we know that stage 2 of the high school is about to occur or is occurring. We know that car parking is not available. We know that people have illegally been overtaking and there's been nearly head-ons. We know that there's issues with entry and exit gates that still aren't open. We know, or I know, that the school is not being used exactly as what has been approved. Photos, evidence of weekend use. Maybe it was a one-off and I just happened to be there. But Madam Mayor, we were told by our ratepayers and residents about the problems would occur. And what did we do? Now we've got the problem, and it's our responsibility to look at that problem. Staff have gone and spoken to the school. Yep, we'll be good, we'll fix things, we'll change things. It happens for a couple of days, and then it doesn't. The school gates were closed until just prior to the school finished, bell, whatever it is at this school, alarm. And there was not any consideration of the residents and ratepayers that live around that school And my concern is it's not if, but when something happens. So, Madam Mayor, this is the reason why I've put this notice of motion up. It's extremely important to me. It's extremely important to those who live around there because I fear what may happen if we do not take action, and I do not believe staff have taken the action to date that is reasonable.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Councillor Jones, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I don't have much more to add. I think Councillor Bowman has voiced exactly what is occurring in this thing. The only thing I will add is I seem to remember when it was first passed that majority of the children would arrive by bus, but that doesn't seem to have happened.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Is there any councillor who wishes to speak against the motion? Councillor Henderson.
Okay, why did I oppose the motion? Well, in fact, I think the motion needs even further clarification. The first 4 points, they're really good. Happy with them. But the point is that we should be going one step further, and we should be completely reviewing all of the traffic management, and staff touched on in their response. And I think that could well have been part of improving the motion. But the important thing here is I went down there one day and I could not believe how bad it was. The queues of traffic were a couple of 100 metres long. There were people on the northbound side of the road that were basically trying to get through, but there were people coming southward that couldn't because it would have been a head-on. That's how bad it is, and I believe that's a regular occurrence. And I could not believe when I sat there on the side of the road that the gates remain closed. And they talked about security in the officer's report. Well, the security's there to keep the gate closed. The gate should be opened as soon as people start to arrive so they can go and park and get ready to pick up their kids. So the whole thing is well, frankly, it's a mess. And I think the motion could have been a little bit more detailed in terms of managing that. But who knows, the mover might be able to convince me otherwise in reply. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Last, anyone would like to speak for the motion? Does anyone like to speak against the motion? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, councillors, I did hear Councillor Bowman's exasperation with the ward meeting process, and I've had that experience myself. Remember the whole Ballard situation that only got resolved eventually by planting rosemary instead. But my concern is this motion really ought to be a bit along the following lines. It should say, Council resolved to request the CEO report to Council on those following 4 items. So I do recognise we've got on the officer's comment what amounts to a report, but what we need is the staff to go away, look into this and come back with a report and recommendation with a recommended resolution for Council. That, I believe, is the way, in general, we should be doing councillor notices of motion. When I actually read the officer comment, the notice of motion at clause 1 proposes to erect no stopping signs along both sides of Asturian Drive, and that was my concern. Is to what extent is item 1? To what extent are we reducing parking and no stopping signs? There isn't that much information in here, but go on. It says the intent would be that it would make it illegal for cars to actually queue to enter the school. So whilst no stopping signage makes it illegal to stop or stand in such areas, taking such actions for cars queuing in the street due to traffic congestion would be very difficult to enforce. So it seems that item 1 is not enforceable. Open the gate. Well, it doesn't say in here to resolve to get staff to open the gate. Maybe that should be in there as well. So from the above definition, it could be inferred that any vehicle that cannot safely pass another vehicle in front of it that is queuing to enter the school would have a defence of avoiding conflict with other traffic. So it appears to be somewhat impractical. Item 2, ensure a ranger is present. Well, we just need to ask the rangers. I'm sure they would, the CEO would oblige. But my general view is that this needs to be a report. It does concern me that we are identifying a problem with the school. As it says in the officer comment, all schools have this problem. Every school that I know of in my ward has some kind of traffic management issue at the beginning and the end of the day. Now this one may be significantly worse, but still the proper way forward is a report. We shouldn't be diving into operational details like no parking, no stopping signs, so on and so forth. So that's my reason for opposing it. If somebody wanted to amend it to request a report, I'd happily support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Ask anyone would like to speak for the motion. Does anyone like to speak against the motion? No, you're right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, twice tonight I agree with Councillor Johnson. The normal process would be to request a report, but I've been requesting and I've been requesting and I've been requesting and nothing has happened. It's got worse. Perhaps the wrong time the staff went out there. Perhaps they didn't understand my concerns. Perhaps they didn't understand the issues. But Madam Mayor, safety is extremely important. And there could have been a lot more that I could have put on this one, Councillor Henderson, a lot more. But I didn't want to go into too much prescriptive specifics because I don't see that is the role of councillors. But what I do see the role is when our residents and ratepayers are pretty well pleading with us to get something done. When there's obvious flaws and we know about it, we have a liability. So, Councillor Johnson, that is the reason why I didn't request a report, because I've been asking for so long. Councillor Henderson's been talking to me. The ward councillors have been mentioning things to me. We all are aware of things there. And have you seen me put one of these up for another school? No, because this one is significantly different. And it's actually more of an issue with what we heard in the statement tonight and also with Henley Brook Avenue. So before it gets worse, and the high school I believe is starting to be built, parts of the car park are closed off and I expect there will be materials delivered there. So it's already being magnified. And I cannot stand before you tonight and not do anything if something was to happen to somebody.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. I'll ask those in favour. Councillor Catalano, Councillor Dawn, Councillor Oringo, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Jones, Councillor Miles, Councillor Knight, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Brodovnik, Councillor Howlett and myself. And those against, Councillor Singh, Councillor McCulloch and Deputy Mayor Johnson. It's carried 12-3. Thank you. And councillors, move on to 15.4, Councillor Bowman's amendment to FOGO program, page 361. Councillor Bowman submitted the following notice of motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
To read out your motion.
That Council resolves to request the report be provided to Council within 2 months to allow for any budget considerations of possible options available to councils of amending the current FOGO program, which includes Go instead of FOGO, Go collected fortnightly, general municipal waste reverting back to weekly pickups, or rural properties are removed from the Go service. And the reason for the motion, feedback from the community has been and continues to be overwhelming that a fortnightly general municipal waste pickup is not satisfactory. Community feedback on the proposed changes were never sought. The contamination rates are excessive. The City of Stirling has proven that it's a successful waste collection option and rural properties currently deal with their own Go waste.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Zanino? Is anyone against?
Amendment.
Amendment, Councillor Brodovnik?
I was going to ask if it's possible to, instead of 2 months, a bit longer in response to the officer's comment needing a bit more time.
How long would you suggest? No. Oh, yeah, Mr CEO?
So again, as this is a notice of motion, you can't amend notice of motion, only the mover can. You could ask a question whether the mover would be prepared to amend it, and on the basis of what he can amend his own motion, and I'll simply preempt your question. If you ask for this to come back in 2 months, it would simply be a one-page report saying, please note there's insufficient time to prepare for a comprehensive report. But there is intention to conduct a workshop for council members at the end of this month.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I guess what I'm asking the mover to consider is an amendment.
Question.
Councillor Bateman?
Before I answer that question, Madam Mayor, can I answer that question with asking a question of staff? How long do they think they would need to take to get a detailed report?
Thank you.
So through the chair, we've already prepared a lot of material and intentions to do a briefing come workshop with you at the end of the month. Part of that workshop would be to make various recommendations to you on community consultation. Now, if that guidance coming back there says, yes, we think you should undertake that community consultation, in other words, to make this a more holistic review, we need several more months. So I'm saying if you make this 4 months, in that time we'll have taken substantive action with you and come back and given you options. It says within 4 months. So if we're earlier than that, we can come back and give you a preliminary decision report, we will.
And my follow-up question, if we said 4 months, which my calculations would be the August council meeting, if there was things that came out of that report that needed budget, would it have been already included in the budget, or we need to do a budget amendment?
So through the chair, it will depend. So firstly, August is your last meeting, which you can then make amendments because you're outside of caretaker period. Because the budget has got an allocation in there for FOGO, for waste services, that's waste services generally. If a decision were made, for instance, to go to a GO service, and we had sufficient budget provision, you wouldn't need to do anything else other than to give us that determination. But there are financial ramifications to this. There are contracts that have entered into. There are legal agreements, and you need to be aware across all of those ramifications before you seek to make decisions.
Madam Mayor, to answer Councillor Podolnik's question, based on the answers, I'm happy if the second is happy to move it to 4 months, so we can get the details, knowing that if there are any cost implications, we've got that covered already.
Is that possible? Yep.
Question.
Just getting back to Councillor Brodovnik. Acceptable, thank you. Question, Deputy Mayor?
I think we need to hear from the seconder, don't we?
Just... So, Councillor Brodovnik, that was acceptable between you and the mover? Sorry. Now, yes. Yeah, now he's going to second it, so...
Yeah,
sorry, is it acceptable to the seconder?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
4 months.
Okay, all right.
Question.
Yeah. Deputy Mayor.
For the CEO, where in 8.3 amendments does it say that we cannot amend a councillor's notice of motion?
Because this is not moved as a part of the agenda, you've got to go to notices of motion. Notices of motion specify the process by which a notice of motion can be considered. It can be changed in substance or form under 5 of the consultation prior to coming up. But if you can tell me where you can start to amend it, remembering it's the member's motion, not that. But amendment as motion may be accepted by a mover and a seconder, which is what we've just done.
So where does it say?
12C.
12C.
12.
Where's 12C?
2.9 12C.
2.9. 12C.
Seconder. On page 10.
That conflicts with 8.3 anyway. We don't need to solve it now, but I find that a bit strange.
Okay.
I'm happy to clarify, because I've advised the Deputy Mayor, it's a notice of motion and it's not a motion moved under another part of the meeting procedure. So it's quite clear 2.912C is the applicable point.
Thank you. Councillor Zanino. Now, we're up to Councillor Zeno. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Haven't spoken yet.
My apologies, Councillor Bowman. Let's get this back on.
Thank you,
Keep
Madam
moving,
Mayor.
councillors.
I would like to
I think we
speak.
did. Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, thank the CEO for eventually, maybe I was able to convince him that it wasn't a revocation this time, or maybe I've reworded it differently because I've been trying for 6 months to get this in front of us. Councillors, we've all got feedback. We've all received feedback. There's only one that mentioned that their residents are wanting it. The issue is, I don't think we've got it right. Our residents and ratepayers don't think we've got it right. Other local governments have done something different. And I think the views, the understanding of councillors at the time was the state government mandated this decision, which is not correct. It wasn't a mandated decision. We could have said to the state government, no. But what they did do was put a little sweetener in. And that little sweetener is, if you follow the FOGO process, we'll give you some grant funding. But look at the issues we get. Madam Mayor, we need to look at this. Because if we've done the wrong thing and we continue to do that, that is not a good way to go. So by now, we've seen the impacts. We've seen the issues. We've seen rural areas, I believe Councillor Henderson area, get rolled out for FOGO. We've seen the people with their 120 or 140 litre fortnightly rubbish pickup, which is equivalent of 70 litres a week, significantly reduced from the 240. There are other options out there. I believe there are better options. Now, we've said before, and Councillor Henderson, Councillor Zanino has said this, that local government of the City of Swan is huge. It's very different. Gidgigana, Swan Valley, part of our ward, Bullsbrook ward, as opposed to a Averley, Midland, Ballajura. So we need to look at that, because one size doesn't fit all. But councillors, we need to listen, we need to look, and all I'm saying is, have we got it right? I don't think we have. And at least go out to our ratepayers and residents and ask, what do you think? Because we haven't done that before. And if you think it's not an issue, look at the recent community survey. It definitely is an issue.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Councillor Zanino is the seconder.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, I concur with Councillor Bowman, and I can certainly say that I've certainly been inundated with emails, phone calls from very unhappy ratepayers, and I dare say that this needs to go back to the drawing board and reassess, because the way it is not working, and we as councillors and a local authority are going to end up with egg on our face. As Councillor Bowman said, City of Swan is not like your run-of-the-mill local councils. We are huge, and we are the most diverse council. Therefore, we need to consult our ratepayers and do what is required by them and acceptable by them, because they are paying the rates. So this is a chance to go back to the drawing board and get things right.
Thank you, Councillor Zanino. I'll ask, is anyone against the motion? Councillor McCulley.
Thank you, Mayor. We all councillors have feedback, and the briefing that is currently being prepared and that will be presented to Council in May, I believe will be a great time to provide that. A report to Council in 2 or 4 months without the briefing would be, I believe, unwise and not considered. So what would be prudent is a briefing first that includes all of our considered feedback to city staff. We can't go back to the drawing board without all councillors' feedback, without time taken to consider wisely everything before us. And I believe that we probably all need to make it a priority before the briefing to bring what we all individually have from our residents, positive and negative, and make sure that that briefing is rigorous. City staff are working hard. They've identified there are issues. And as long as it has taken for FOGO to be rolled out in the stages that have been deemed appropriate, we need to not have a knee-jerk reaction and take a breath and actually look at how we move forward. So I think it really would be prudent, considering the grant funding as well. Significant monies have been invested. State are looking as to maybe how we move through the process to make it work for the City of Swan. And we know it's a diverse city in so many shapes and forms. So councillors, please don't support this motion. Let's go to the briefing, gird it up with great feedback to make considered decisions with the staff's report, which I believe will be, well, not the report, but with the briefing and the information that they bring. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCulloch. I'll ask, does anyone like to speak for the motion?
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor.
Question?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the CEO. Are we going to have a briefing first? If this motion is supported, we would have a briefing still, wouldn't we, on it, and then a report in 4 months? Is that correct?
Mr. CEO?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Question, Councillor Miles? No question? Councillor Zanino or Henderson, who had a question there? Neither? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I've got a question. Does this motion affect the operational pause?
Mr. CEO?
No.
Further question? No. Any questions? Right, I'll ask, does anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Henderson next.
Okay, just a couple of points. First things, this is to prepare a report. Great. What it will do, it will enhance what is going to be presented in May, and it sets a very clear direction that we do need to consider the go option. So that's point one. The other issue that I think should be considered as well, FOGO was offered by the state with a big sweetener, a pile of money. There's one fundamental: if you didn't take it, what's going to happen is the waste levy is going to go up and up and up and up, because if you're going to be pouring stuff into landfill, you're going to pay a lot of money. So there was a sweetener, but there was also a whip on the side of it. So I think we have to consider that when we look at the question of how we go forward with this, because clearly, whilst people are saying they don't like FOGO, and I can tell you the boss in our family says she doesn't like FOGO. That's a matter in common, I think. But the fact of the matter is, we do need to consider that it will cost more as waste levies go up to dispose of a product if we can't feed it into incinerators or the like. So these things I hope will come out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Miles.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Bowman, for bringing forward this motion. Now, as one of the councillors from the Whiteman ward, Balladura being one of the suburbs I represent proudly, we were, the test dummy in this process, being one of the first suburbs that the rollout came about onto. And frankly, my community thinks the rollout stinks, pun not intended, but it does. And, I've consistently had feedback on social media, in my face, and every other method you could dream of, and people are really upset because they're paying this money, a lot of money, to the rates to this council, and they're getting a service that they don't think suits their needs. And of course, there are going to be teething problems when you know, we have such a big change of how we do things in the city. But frankly, I agree with the councillors here that, you know, it hasn't been good enough, especially for my community. And when they tell me, you know, over in the city of Stirling or the city of XYZ, you know, they have a different system where they have their red bin collected weekly and they talk to their friends in other districts, they're going to think, well, what the frick is the city of Swan doing for me? And I tend to agree that I think we need to reorient and come back to what the residents are saying to us. I personally think the go element, probably we should stick with FOGO because I think that's a better way to deal with our waste. But I think it's really important that we're constantly hearing what our community are telling us and adapting accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. I'll ask if any councillors like to speak against the motion. Are there any councillors like to speak for the motion? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, and yeah, I do thank Councillor Bowman for bringing this motion. I understand that Councillor Bowman submitted a motion similar to this in November, but it got stuck in some complicated legal difficulty. But finally, it's in front of us, and not a moment too soon. I think it would have been best seen in November. So I'm glad to see it now. I must admit, I would like to see the report in 2 months, not in 4 months. But the more information we've got in a definite time frame, the better. I too have had plenty of feedback about this. I've had my ears bashed in today over it, actually. I'm hearing a lot of different things. So, as some councillors know, I did go on my field trip to Ballajura. I knocked on lots of doors, and I got a lot of information. As I've said before, I found about 80% of people liked it, 20% of people really didn't like it. They were the families and the people with other kinds of unpleasant waste that they wanted picked up weekly, not fortnightly. And something I didn't say last time I spoke about this, Councillor Miles, when I was walking around Ballajura, I thought, funny that, it smells a bit different, Ballajura does too. The first time I went around Ballajura, there was this funny smell in here. And I remember thinking, am I just imagining this, or has it really changed? So last time I was around there was October 2023. People in Guilford are very disappointed that they're not getting their FOGO bins. I've had a few people phone me up. I've got an enormous amount of feedback on my Facebook page. People want to know what's going on. Why are we stopping this? I had like a half an hour on the phone with somebody this morning. So that's one point of view. People want to know, we've been waiting for FOGO for years and now we haven't got it. And another piece of feedback this morning from my barber. He asked me what was going on. I asked him on council, I asked him, well, what are you noticing? I said, anything about the bins? Oh, the bins. What he told me was that he doesn't have a problem with it, but his partner, hairdressing partner, business partner, did have a problem with it. He was really opposed to it. He thought it was the dumbest idea ever, but then 2 weeks later he was all right with it. So he's had it for several months. So the view is, and I'm getting this a lot, is that once people get it, initially they find it a bit difficult, but about 80% of them are quite happy with it. But councillors, the concerns of the 20% are valid and they're not going away, as evidenced by the trip to Ballajura. So my view is that it's almost certain we're going to have to go to a weekly red bin pickup, and we need this report urgently. FOGO or go. Look, I think we're going to have to go. We're going to have to go, and then go FOGO.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll ask, does anyone like to speak for the motion? Your time is up, Deputy Mayor.
Well, other people have been allowed to slide.
Anyone like to approve?
And I'd like
1 minute. How long?
1 minute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is anyone against?
I've only got about 3 more words. The more information we've got on this extremely important subject, the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Does anyone like to speak for the motion? Anyone like to speak against the motion? No? You're right to reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, Councillor Johnson talked about the barber. I expect the barber puts the hair in the bin. I wouldn't even know which bin it was in, but obviously it depends on whose hair they're cutting. Councillor Miles, I agree. You mentioned the rollout stinks. The people that I get told all the time about, 2 weeks of nappy, does stink. That's one of the reasons why FOGO is usually a weekly pickup, because of rotting scraps. However, with a go, it is fortnightly. Councillor Zanino, you talked about we've got egg on our face. Obviously, we didn't put the shells in the right bin. But let's get to the real nitty-gritty of it. Councillor McCulloch said a knee-jerk reaction and take a breath. I can tell you that this is not a knee-jerk reaction. This is something I've been going on for 12 months now. It's not something I woke up the other day just before the requirements of this notice of motion and put it in. Councillors, ask yourself the question, and Councillor McCulloch said, can't support this motion because we need the briefing first. Why are we having the briefing? We haven't received one previously. I suggest the reason we're having the briefing is because I've been pushing this issue and I've brought this motion forward. Grant funding? Yes. We received grant funding, but in local government, sometimes always taking grant funding is not the best option. Should we continue to incur expenses? I don't know, and that's why I think we need the report. Councillors giving feedback. Councillors can give feedback at any time. We've had previous feedback when an item came that Councillor Henderson ruled out Gidgigana. So there has been times we have feedback. The briefing will allow us to give more feedback, and like other reports, when we have briefings, staff will then be able to take that feedback on and include that report. I agree with Councillor Johnson for the third time tonight. Quicker would be better. However, understanding the reason why it was for any budget we needed. However, the explanation from the CEO has alleviated that fear. So councillors, our community, a large part of our community are questioning this, and we need to have a look at it.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Those in favour? Councillor Catalano, Councillor Dawn, Councillor Singh, Councillor Ringo, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Jones, Councillor Miles, Councillor Knight, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Prodovnik, Deputy Mayor and myself. And those against? There's Councillor McCulloch and Councillor Howlett. The motion's carried 13-2. Okay, councillors, move on to item 16.2, and it's a confidential report, so I need a motion to go behind closed doors if council wishes to discuss this matter. Councillor Bowman, seconded by Councillor Miles. For those watching at home, we will resume shortly.
No, anyone against?
Oh, was there anyone against?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Didn't realise we still had a member of the audience hanging on. Very excited.
Those watching at home, we've just come out from behind closed doors and we resolved that 16.3, which is a confidential item, 16.2, which was the acquisition of lot 177 Henley Street, Henley Brook for the purpose of HACQP 0S09 under the Planning and Development Act 2005 due to hardship. And the recommendation is that council, oh, it's just lost it there. Thank you. That council resolved to 1. Acquire the whole of lot 177 on deposited plan 424226 to 111 Henley Street, Henley Brook for the amount identified within the report as settlement in full. Point 2, authorise the CEO to finalise the land acquisition in accordance with section 190 of the Planning and Development Act 2005. And 3, approve the amendment to the 2024-25 annual budget for the land acquisition as detailed in the report. And that was carried. And then item 16.3, East Rockingham Waste to Energy Project, novation of financier side deed. The council resolved to 1, the CEO is authorised to finalise the draft deed of novation of the financier side deed between the security trustee, the EMRC participants and East Rockingham Resource Recovery Facility Project Co. Pty Limited. 2, the Mayor and CEO are authorised to sign the final deed of novation under common seal. And 3, that the report and attachments remain confidential and be certified by the Mayor and the CEO. And that was carried. 11.4. Well, this moves to part 17, notice of motions for consideration at the following meeting, if given during the meeting. And the deadline for submissions is 5 p.m. on Tuesday, the 22nd of April 2025. I would just like to wish everyone watching online and those in the City of Swan, our councillors and staff, a very happy Easter, Anzac Day and a safe holiday period. And I'll close the meeting now at 9:23 p.m. Thank you.